Hello. Hi. So we are going to be jumping back into Lover Pretend today. We've officially done all of the main stories, and so we've unlocked Eiichirou. I'm not sure if my selection for him starts at the same time as the others, so I'm tired and going to close the game when I meant to go back to the home screen of the game, not start it over again. So I'm going to start from the very, very, very beginning and see if there's new stuff that way, because I don't know where they would toss stuff with him in. So it could be a little bit longer start to get to the story, but we'll find out. Yep. Yep. Let's skip it. We've watched it already. All right, let's get started. So I don't know if like in the prologue there'll be new stuff. If there's not, it's fine because we'll be skipping through it anyways. But since he's a new love interest, anything could happen. We feel alive again. The sweetness of the dissolved sugar in my hot coffee. My brain. We went over to the finer details of the script, and I took copious notes. Then I decided to ask a question that had been nagging me. Are there any genres you struggle with, Professor?
もちろんあるよ。ここだけの話。恋愛ものや家族ものはあまり得意ではないかな。
Of course, just between you and me, I'm not very good with romance or family-oriented stories. Really? I never would have guessed that about you. What do you do when you run into a scene you're having trouble with? Asagi took a sip of his coffee, smiling as if he had anticipated my question.
自分なりの方法論はあるけれど、さほど参考にはならないんじゃないかな。
I've got my own way of dealing with it, but it might not be very helpful to
私
you.
と君では、脚本家としての執筆のタイプが全く異なっているからね。
You and I are two completely different kind of writers. Different in what way?
脚本を書く上で大まかに2種類のタイプに分けられる。理論で固めるタイプと感覚で書くタイプ。
He's saying I'm emotional. He's saying I'm emotional. I can sense it. I would say that screenwriters fall roughly into two categories: those who write based on logic and those who write based on emotion.
では、ここで一つ質問してみよう。
So let me
私は
ask
どちらのタイプだと思う？
let me ask you a question. Which one do you think I am? He's a logical writer. Having read your scripts, I'd say you're more of a logical writer. You provide very clear stage directions, and there are apparent flows to the plot. But most of all, your lectures are easy to understand. I doubt your work would be so clean if you worked off feelings alone. He liked it. Yes.
その通り。脚本家としては文を褒められるのが一番嬉しいことではあるけれど。
That's correct. Nothing makes me happier than to be praised for my literary quality of my writing.
講師と
But
しての活動を評価されるのも予想外に嬉しいものだね。
it sure feels nice to hear someone compliment my teaching style. After a pensive silence, Professor Asagi suddenly gulped down the rest of his coffee.
ということで、私は理論で固めていくタイプ。逆に君は感覚で書くタイプ。
On that note, I happen to be a strictly logical writer. You, on the other hand, write from a place of emotion.
別にどちらが優れているという類の話ではないけれど。
One isn't necessarily better than
お
the
そらく
other.
感覚型の君は自身が登場人物に共感できなければ良いものが書けないのでは？
In fact, if a talented writer like you can connect with your characters, you should be able to create something pretty impressive. You're right, of
だから
course.
今回苦戦している理由はおそらく
So I think the reason you struggled this time around is probably Professor Asagi paused and eyed me warily as if grappling for the right words. I could guess what he was about to say and nodded bitterly. You're saying that I struggle to write romance because I don't have any experience.
私の口からは何とも。
Your words, not mine. Isn't that the same as agreeing with me?
とはいえ、恋愛経験がなくとも恋愛をかける脚本家は大勢いる。
That said, plenty of writers can write romance without having any actual
人を
experience.
殺した経験がなくても殺人犯の物語は書ける。つまりはそういうことだよ。
People write murder mysteries without being murderers themselves, you know? That's all I'm saying. Right. I know that. But that's why I'm having a hard time understanding why I couldn't make it work in this one.
逆に恋愛へのこだわりや
It's like
理想がありすぎるから書けないということは？
I might not be responding right away. Hang on, I'm blind and I keep seeing a smudge in my glasses. And it just took me way too long to find the corner of this fabric. All right. Right. Think of it this way. Maybe you have too many preconceptions of what romance is and it holds you back. Really? It's not like I have any romance fantasies I was trying to shoehorn in.
まあ、壁に当たるのはクリエイターなら誰もが通る道だからね。
Anyways, all creators run into walls from time to time. It's just part of the
いい
process.
機会だし、ゆっくり考えるといい。
This is a good
この
chance.
壁を乗り越えられれば、君は脚本家として一皮むけるはずだから。
This is a good chance to take some time and think it over. If you can conquer this, you'll gain even more depth as a writer. Yes, sir. I'll do my best. Thank you. Professor Asagi carried the conversation with a smile, then he changed the
一つ
subject.
君にいい話があるんだ。よかったら考えてみてくれないかな。
Actually, I have a proposal for you. Could you consider it? What kind of proposal? We chatted a bit more, and then I realized it was already evening. Oh no, I need to be going. Bye, Professor. I enjoy the concept that she just like ran out of there. I made a mad dash for the campus to the train station, dipping into the cafe where I was supposed to meet someone. I paused when I saw he had already taken up a seat. Aha. Okay, so that means that's the very beginning. That just means there was more to the first introduction with him. I'm not gonna save because I'm pretty sure this is just that thing. Yeah, I don't care if I win Kazuma points. Doot.
それではま
あ、俺っす。中学
Oops.
卒業する日に呼び出して伝説のき
I was trying to hit skip. Just because.
なんだよそれ。ちゃん
Oh, the real reason, because I liked you too. The server beamed in an obviously forced way.
両思いだったんですね。素敵ですね。
Your feelings were mutual. That's wonderful. Probably not make it as embarrassing as before. He's kind. I think that was the right answer. Oh, no, kind of. Okay. See. Like lovers. Oh, come on. You got me. I tried to finish off the gesture with a giggle, and Cosmo hastily averted his eyes.
彼氏さんノックアウト
Knockout boyfriend, this is bad. I wasn't sure what was so bad about it, but it seemed to have worked. I love you too. All right, perfect. We did it. We successfully got the dessert from the waitress. She'll never know. guess it's good I started from the very beginning, but that's not a lot of content that I'm going to skip through a lot more. So we'll get there. It'll be a truck, but we're going to get there. Ooh, please skip. I was told I could skip this. Episode 1. Okay. Maybe I should be fast forwarding through things. Ah, what a fool. Should I take him up on it? Let's say I'm fine. I think I'll be okay. We just talked about everything the other day, so it's still fresh in my
そうか
mind.
いそれならよかった
Glad to
Yeah.
hear. Let's hurry then. Okay, he didn't like that. We're gonna start over. I'd
今
appreciate
回の
that.
映画脚本の私を含め一部のスタッフは揃っています
Okay.
一部のキャストも
No, because they were both new colors, so I was gonna say maybe I've already done this, but they were not like one was blue and one was whatever. At this stage, we've assumed a proportion of the production crew, including me. The same goes
こ
for
う
the
いう言い
cast.
方を聞いたことがあるとは思うけれどいわゆる牧野組というものだね
I believe you're familiar with this setup, but we'll be called Team
しばらく
Makino.
一番忙しくなる仕事は主役オーディションだ
Starting today, our busiest job is going to be auditions for the
今
lead
回はすぐ
role.
には決めずに何回かオーディションを繰り返して吟味していく予定です
We won't be making the casting decision right away. We're going to need multiple auditions to narrow down the candidates. Speaking of, have we already decided on the image for the lead actor?
そうだねある程度だ
To an extent, yes. Hot. What do you
全
mean?
体のストーリー構成や登場人物はできているのだけれど
The overall story structure and characters are already
今回
written.
の主役オーディションによってはそのあたりに変更も出てくるでしょう
Some of the details, however, might shift depending on how these auditions
主役と
go.
その相棒的立ち位置の脇役がいるのだけれど
There's a supporting character who serves as the protagonist
今
sidekick.
回のオーディションで逸材がいれば主役も相棒も候補者の中から選ぶしダブル主役という形になる可能性もあるんだ
If we discover someone especially gifted among the lead, supporting, and bit part candidates, we may create a dual
オーディ
lead.
ションが全て終わるまでどうなるかわからない
I can't say how things will turn out until after auditions are over. Sounds like we're playing it by ear. Doesn't that mean you'll have to do all the heavy lifting?
気づいたかいオーディションが終わるまで正式に執筆を進められないからね
Realize that, have you? I can't officially move forward with the script until we get this part.
もちろん現時点で企画自体がひっくり返ることはないからストーリーの骨子は進めていくけれど
There aren't going to be any dramatic revisions at this point, as the backbone of the story is already in
全ては
place.
監督とオーディションに集まった候補者たち次第というわけだ
But what happens next will depend entirely on the director and our candidates. Does Mr. Makino always work like
そう
this?
だね作品によるかな監督によってもそういうタイプを好む人と好まない人もいるし
I'd say it depends on the project. Some directors prefer this method of
牧野監
filmmaking.
督作品でも今まで似たやり方はあったけれど今回ほどオーディション主体で決めるのは初めてかもしれない
Makino has done things like this before, but this might be the first time that so much is riding on the auditions specifically. I'll try to make things easier for you then.
ありがとうよろしく頼みます
Thanks. I'll be counting on you. Of course. All right. Let's see. Do. Are you okay? Don't save. I believe this is the, yeah, people on the street. Do, 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 do. Co-workers. Trust him? I think that was... What we have now is fine. Did it. Did I finally do it? We're almost over and I finally got the screenshot I wanted here. I was curious about no one in particular. I'm curious about some of the candidates, but it's only for my own interest. Obviously, I shouldn't suggest someone just because I want to get closer to them. Sorry, there's so many I just can't choose.
まあ、急に聞かれても役者の良し悪しなんてわからねえよな。
I guess it would be tough for you to tell all these guys apart on the spot. I'm
今回
sorry.
は特にほとんど露出のない新人も多いですし、いきなり履歴書だけを見て選べと言われても判断がつかないのも無理はない。
This time they're mostly newbies without any experience. It'd be unreasonable to ask you to pick them based on resumes
し
alone.
かし、いつかプロの脚本家になった時にこのような状況は発生すると思います。
However, once you become a professional screenwriter, these situations will
少ない
happen.
情報と短い時間の中でも見極められる審美眼を磨いていけるといいですね。
You should work on your ability to make quick judgments based off on limited information. I understand,
ここ
thank
に
you.
乗ってる以外にも、もし周りに良さそうな人いたらいつでも連れてきてくれよ。
If you know of anyone good who isn't on this table already, be sure to let us know. Someone I know? I don't have any friends to begin with if I had to choose. Nah, Kazuma was in the drama club, but he was backstage crew like me. Sure, he sometimes filled in on stage when we were missing somebody, but his performances were really stiff. Did I mess up? Was Eiichirou? No, it wasn't. You looked real cool, random guy. Quit touching me, as everyone should say. All right, let's see. I don't need to save. I got this. All right, let's see. Is that what it was? I could get all the wrong answers, but I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. I'm planning on doing another playthrough once I get through Eiichirou, to get all the other endings so I get all the pictures unlocked at once. I was also going to start writing down my thoughts, and I realized I don't even remember Makino's reason for pretending to date when I was going to write my notes, because I was going to put this reason was this, and I was like, what was the reason? I can't remember. So I'm going to have to review that, which I think is hilarious. We'll get there. All right, acting. Part 2, Yukito. When we met on the street. I can't remember. I don't remember which one's the answers he wants. I always get that one wrong. Just, sorry, Yukito. I don't think I've gotten that one right all the way through ever. All right.
ってことでおしまいと。
Let him sleep. He's not who I'm after this time anyways. We did it. We're there. Let's see if we can finish his story in 10 saves. All right. I was nearly at my wit's end. Nishijima and Makino had already slipped out of the room. What was I going to do? Only one other person could save me now. Professor Asagi. By some miracle, my mentor met my eye and gave me a weary smile. It was a look of
上田さん
resignation.
少しいいかな脚本のことで相談があるんですが
A moment, Miss Uda. I have a question about this new speech about the script. Absolutely. Let's go.
ああ、和田ちゃん行っちゃった。上久保ちゃんが邪魔するから。
She's gone. Way to scare off dummy Kubo.
邪魔されるようなことするセナさんが悪いんですって。
You're the one scaring her off. Don't care. Can't hear them. Definitely can't hear them. I did my best to ignore the squabbling duo while my mentor was smiling at them.
親睦を深められているようで何より
I'm glad they're becoming such good friends. Are they? This was all I could say to my mentor, whose serene, kindly smile seemed to seem better aimed at young children at play. Close.
どうぞ上田さん
Here, Musuda. I accepted a can of juice from my mentor and bowed apologetically. I'm so sorry. Not only did you help me get out of there, but you're even treating
いい
me.
え君は毎日しっかり頑張ってくれているので
No need to apologize. I know how much work you're putting into this
こ
every
れは
day.
私からのお礼とでも思っておいてくれればいいよ
Just consider it a gesture of thanks from me to you. I'm happy to know that he appreciates me.
だけどさっきの様子を見て少し安心したよ
Seeing that gave me a little boost of confidence. You mean this scene was we just left? What was comforting about
先
that?
ほどの君はなかなかに楽しそうな顔をしていたから
Back in that room, you looked like you were having a good
大
time.
学にいる時よりもずっと生き生きとしていると言えばいいのかな
How should I put it? You looked much livelier than you have at school. I did? I guess I wasn't paying
今は
attention.
まだそう思えずともいつかは楽しかったと思えてくる
Even if you find it hard to believe now, you look back on these moments fondly
それに
someday.
自分でも貴重な体験をしているという自覚はあるんじゃないか
Yes, Ichido. Besides, you're aware of how valuable this experience is, aren't you? Yes. I've learned so much watching actors work and how they're cast. I can see firsthand how much effort the pros put into understanding and mastering their roles.
Good.
But to be honest, interacting with Sina gets a little tiring. In fact, out of everyone here, he probably sucks the most energy out of me. In contrast to my own frown, my mentor's grin grew
確かに
wider.
彼は人より少し他人との壁が薄いようだからね
I'll admit, he isn't as guarded around others as most people. It seems more like he goes on the attack.
おそらくあれが彼なりのコミュニケーションの取り方なのだと思うよ
That must be his unique way of communicating with other
あまり
people.
に距離感が近すぎて君が戸惑うのも当然だとは思う
I'm sure it's
だけど
I'm sure it's a little protruding how close he's willing to get. I understand that,
逆
but
に一度誘いに乗ってみるのも悪くないのかもしれないね
it might not be a bad idea to take him up on his advances. What?
きっといい経験になると思うけれどどうかな
I think it'd be a good experience for you. What do you think? What am I supposed to say to that? Let's see. As I contemplated how to respond, my mentor waited for me with a look of amusement. Are you referring to the romance plot I struggled to write? Huh? Back then you pointed out that my lack of relationship experience influenced my work. So are you suggestion that I go out with the test the waters in order to learn how to write romance? Before I knew it, I was clenching my fist. For an instant, my mentor's eyes widened. This man did not just laugh at me.
失礼。君の脚本への思いがあまりにまっすぐなのでつい。
Pardon me, I couldn't help it. You're just so earnest when it comes to screenwriting. Was there something funny about my
いいや、
question?
何も。助言した人間としては、しっかりと受け止めてくれていたことに感謝したいくらいだよ。
Not at
だ
all.
けれど、
Actually, I appreciate that my dear student has taken my advice to heart.
今回の
However,
話は、それとは少し違うかな。
that's not exactly what I was referring to. My mentor's cryptic smile was a puzzle I couldn't solve. If I guessed incorrectly, then what did he mean? You guessed correctly. He liked you more because of it. Professor Asagi's faced me directly. Perhaps he sensed my growing confusion. Look at that
簡単に
man.
言えば、今回に限っては、恋愛についてのあの話は忘れて構わない。
To put it simply, I don't mind if you forget about our talk regarding romance, at least for now. Huh?
私が伝えたかったのは、あえて苦手な分野や世界に足を踏み入れることが、経験の蓄積になるという話だよ。
What I'm trying to say is that wisdom and experience comes from throwing yourself into subjects and environments that
自分
challenge
と
you.
は合わないかもしれない。そう感じた相手というのは、大抵自分とは違う感性を持っているから。
Sure. You might not get along with Sina, but if someone makes you feel that way, it's because their sensibilities are different than yours. All right, well, let me turn you off and back on. Let me unplug you. Sometimes that'll do it. Let's see. Let's restart that again. Well, I think that might have fixed it. I think my screen went out on my side screen as well. So there we go. All right. Sure, you may not get along with Sina, but if someone makes you feel that way, it's because their sensibilities are different than yours.
瀬名
Oh,
君はその条件に合うとは思わないかな。
that certainly applies to him, wouldn't you say? Yeah, I think so. Look at me holding this drink with two hands, dressed so immaturely next to this man. All right. I saw the world one way and Sina another. Our perspectives were probably completely different. I know nothing about
ほ
Sina's
んの
world.
短い時間でもいい。自分とは違う考えの人と話をしてみる。それだけで自分の世界が広がっていく。
Even if it's a brisk chat, you should try talking to someone who thinks differently than you. That alone will broaden your
それがいつの
horizon.
間にか脚本に反映されて、自分でも気づかないうちに深い物語になっていくこともある。
Before you know it, it'll influence your writing and you'll be able to write a deeper story than ever
そう
before.
思うと、彼の誘いに乗ってみるのも悪くはないだろう。
With that in mind, his offers don't sound so bad, do they? On my own time, I had devoured countless movies, books, and TV shows. When it came to media, I tried a little bit of everything without being picky. But I never thought about applying that same idea to people. I don't see eye to eye with.
最初はゆっくりでいいんだ。少しずつ相手の世界を理解していけば。
It's fine to take it slow at first, as long as you can come to understand the other person's worldview. I found myself smiling and nodding. My mentor's kind words and kind advice had soothed me. All right, I'll be a bit interested now.
そう、その調子。次の作品も楽しみにしているよ。
That's the spirit. I'm looking forward towards your next trip. Opening up to someone I couldn't stand would expand my view on the world. I'd never even thought to do that before. As I was lost in thought,
よ、浅木先生にお嬢ちゃん。講義はもう終わったか？
Professor, little Missy, all done with your private lecture?
花井さん、立ち聞きなんて趣味が悪いですよ。
I'm naive. Eavesdropping is in poor
し
trace.
ょうがねえだろう。真面目な話の邪魔なんかできねえよ。俺はデリカシーの塊だからな。
I wish you were a love interest, Hanai. I know it's a very inappropriate age difference, but you're adorable. What else was I supposed to do? Far be it from me to interrupt such a serious conversation. I'm a master of etiquette.
そのセリフからは1ミリもデリカシーを感じませんが。
It's hardly polite when you go boasting about it.
にしても、栄一郎。あんま生徒の前でカッコつけると、後で自分が痛い目見るぜ。
Eiichirou, if you show off that much in front of your student, it'll come back to bite you.
何のことです？
What's that supposed to
お
mean?
前だって若い頃は苦手なもんから逃げる癖あったろ？
When you were young, you had a habit of running from things you didn't like.
豚もつが食えなくて涙ぐみながら俺に押し付けてきたりとか。
I recall you hating liver so much that you shoved it onto my plate with tears in your eyes.
何の話ですか？というか泣いていませんし、別に無理やり押し付けては。
What are you talking about? I didn't cry, nor did I force anyone else to eat it. You don't like liver, Professor?
とにかく何事も無理のない範囲で努力すればいいという話です。
Moving on, I just meant that she should do her best within
はい、
reason.
はいっと。いい話だったよな、上田ちゃん。
Sure. Wasn't that a nice talk, Uda-chan? Yes, it was so educational.
浅木先生。
There you have it.
それならよかった。
I'm glad to hear it. Professor Asagi looked away as if trying to hide his embarrassment. He's being kind of cute. I felt a smile bubbling to the surface, so I pressed my hands to my cheek to suppress it. I feel like he's giving me more than advice, something really special. This pleasant thought warmed my heart as I watched my mentor behave so bashfully. Ooh. A few days later, we can jump ahead. All right. Go back to lesson room. So this is after, I believe after she found out that he might be related to her. What can I do now? What should I do now? I think I owe Professor Asagi an apology. That's priority number 1. Feeling nervous, I knocked on the door to the lesson room. Excuse me, Professor?
上田さん、なぜここへ？
What are you
頭を
doing?
冷やすように言ったはずだけど。
Hi, sounds a little harsh. All right, what are you doing here, Masuda? I thought I told you to go back to on break. You did, but I've been thinking about what you said and the mistakes I made today. Since this morning, I haven't been focusing on taking my work seriously. I'm sorry. As I bowed, my mentor didn't say a word. I could feel his eyes on me. I took some time to cool off and calm down. I promise you I won't make the same mistake again.
残念だけど、私にはそうは思えない。
Unfortunately, it doesn't seem that way to me. My head snapped up. I met my mentor's piercing
自
gaze.
分は冷静だというのはたやすい。だけど人間、そう簡単に切り替えができれば苦労はしない。
Those are pretty words, but people don't just change instantly. Life would be much easier if we did. But
では一つ聞くけれど、なぜ集中力が欠けていたのか、
let me
自
ask
分
you
で原因
something.
を説明できるかい？
Can you explain to me why you can't
そ
focus?
の原因が解決できていないなら、冷静になったなどとは言えないよ。
Unless you address the cause, you can't claim to have moved past it. My lips pressed into a thin line. I know the reason. I obviously can't tell him. Is your dad also my dad? Are you my big brother? Do you know the truth? There was no way I could ask such baseless questions.
話したくないということは、よほど言いにくい話なんだろうね。
Must be a difficult subject if you don't want to tell
だけ
me.
ど、君を監督する立場として、 このまま放っておくわけにはいかない。
I'm responsible for your performance here, so I can't just let this go.
同じようなミスを繰り返したら他のスタッフにも迷惑がかかる。
If you make the same mistake again, it'll cause problem for the crew. You understand that, don't you? Yes. Professor Asagi nodded at my meek reply.
では改めて聞こうか。今君が悩んでいるのは進路、自作の脚本、
Allow me to ask you again. Are you worried about your career, your script,
人間関
or
係。
your relationship to someone else?
どうやら最後が正解か。
He's like, oh, that one got the biggest attention. What? Looks like it's the latter then. No, I need to talk my way out of this. It's school.
大学に
School, you say? I've been worrying about someone at school, so I think it's because of that.
その人のことを考えていて仕事であのミスを。
And you've made mistakes at work because you were thinking about this person? Yes. Professor Asagi's eyes narrowed and he pursed his lips. That's not really the problem here, but he doesn't know that. It's okay. I'm safe. It's not entirely a lie either. I put on my best poker face and my mentor's frown eventually softened.
そういうことなら私にも相手のことを少し聞かせてもらえるかな。
In that case, would you mind telling me a few things about this person? Huh?
大学なら私が知っている相手かもしれないからね。
It might be
相
someone
談
I
に乗れ
know.
ると思う。
Perhaps I can be of some assistance.
それに何より君には早く調子を取り戻してもらわないと困るからね。
After all, I need you back in tip-top shape. I don't know why he's smiling, but I have to lie if I'm going to get out of this. Dun dun. Pretend time. All right. Oh, I don't like that color. I thought it'd be gray. Mission. Lie your way past Professor Asagi.
繰り返すようで申し訳ないけど、
As
今
the
日君はかなり集中力を欠いていた。
At the risk of repeating myself, it seems like you lack concentration
というこ
today.
とは、それくらい気になる相手なのだと思うけど、
This person must be
その
bothering
相手
you
とはどのような関係かな。
considerably. Who are they to you? He wants to know how I know them. I desperately tried to fictionalize the person who worries about me. They needed to seem realistic, but they couldn't resemble my mentor in the slightest. They couldn't. Here goes. We're close, because we aren't close. We're rather
そ
close,
れ
I
は
think.
友達のような。
Is it a friend? In a way, they're more like someone I look up to than a
な
friend.
るほど。そう聞くと、年上の先輩のような存在ということだね。
I see. So they're older, perhaps a professional or an upperclassman. Is it just me or did he almost get it? Did I mess up? That's right. They're an upperclassman. Just barely safe.
なるほど。とりあえず君とその人との関係性は置いておくとして、
How could there be an upperclassman? Isn't she a senior? Right. Well, let's set the relationship to you aside for a
君は
moment.
その人の何がそんなに気にかかっているのかな。
What about this person has you so
仕事に
concerned?
支障が出るほどということは、よほどのことだと思うけれど。
It must be substantial if they're interfering with your job. I don't know if I've said this before, but his eyes remind me of like a snake. I have to think of a good answer this time. My mentor's tone was encouraging rather than demanding. Avoiding his gaze, I took a deep breath. They're my type? They might be my type. I'm a single woman in college. Of course I might have a thing for
なる
someone.
ほど。タイプ。そういうことか。
Ah, so they're your type. That's interesting. Yeah, that's
で
it.
は、 次の恋愛に関する脚本は期待してもいいのかな？
Shall I have high expectations for your next romance script then? Ooh. His smile was killer. I'm sure he meant that sincerely and wasn't taunting me, but now I felt really nervous.
では最後に失礼を承知で単刀直入に聞くけれど、
One last question. Forgive me for being blunt,
今日の
but
君のミスは本当にその気になる相手がいるからですか？
did you really make those mistakes today because of this person who's bothering you? What?
先ほどから話を聞いていると、どうも怪しい部分が多いもので、
All your answers so far have been rather dubious.
実は別の何か、あるいは誰かがいるのではと。
It makes me wonder if you aren't hiding someone else or someone else. Oh
申し訳ない。
no.
しつこく聞いてしまって。
I apologize for
けれ
prying.
ど、気になることがあると聞かずにはいられない脚本家の差がだと思ってくれないかな。
I hope you'll pardon my old writer's habit of questioning the unknown. A writer's habit? I'm definitely in a pinch here, but this could be my chance to convince him. Let me think. Maybe it's time for me to throw him a curveball. Stealing my resolve, I met my mentor's probing gaze without hesitation. Don't you trust me? Don't you trust me? I mustered the meekest tone I could, and my mentor's lips tugged up a little.
すまない。そんな顔をさせるつもりじゃなかったんだ。
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel that
大
way.
丈夫。自分の教え子のことはちゃんと信じているよ。
Ooh, broke that trust right away. Don't worry, you're my student. I trust you. Oh, my heart. Thank you. I bowed, and his expression relaxed. We did it.
では、質問はここまでで。少し問い詰めすぎてしまった気もするので。
Enough questioning for now. I feel like I may have driven you into a corner.
いろいろと
Finally,
厳しいことも言ったけど、ミスは誰でもするものだからね。
I was a bit harsh on you. After all, everyone makes
今日の
mistakes.
ことで気を落とさず、明日からまた無理のない範囲で頑張ってください。
I hope you'll continue to give us your best, and don't let today
君
discourage
が
you.
元気でないと心配する人がたくさんいることを忘れないで。
Remember, many people worry about you when they see you out of
も
sorts,
ちろん。
myself included. Right, you're entirely right. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank goodness. He accepted my explanation. Boom.
もしまた何か話したくなったらいつでも話しに来てほしい。
If you ever want to talk, I'm always here to
一
listen.
人で抱え込まずに他人に話した方が楽になることもあるからね。
Problems are easier to face when you aren't alone. He has a point, I suppose. Still, this problem isn't something I can just tell him about. He's directly involved. I bowed, unable to bring myself to agree to it. I'll come to you if there's something you can help with. I'm very sorry about today. I'm gonna get the props ready for the next lesson. I'll make sure not to screw up again. I quickly said my farewell and then turned to leave. I'm happy to know he's genuinely concerned, but I wasn't ready to talk about this yet. Locking my heart away with excuses, I left a lesson room behind. As I walked away, I tried my best to ignore Professor Asagi's gaze, boring into my back. Oh, that sounds a little scary. He's a little scary. It's interesting. A few days later. Okay. No,
本当に？
really. It's no big deal. Seeing that I wasn't eager to keep talking, my mentor sighed and let out a chuckle.
実は君がミスをした日からずっと気にはなっていたんだよ。
To tell the truth, something's been bothering me ever since the day you made those
その
mishaps.
時、君とは少しだけ話をしてみたけど、
We spoke briefly afterwards,
ど
but
うにも言動がおかしかったからね。気になる人がいるというのもかなり怪しい話だと思ったし。
it was the most convincing story ever, Eiichirou. I don't know, you're crazy. What you said didn't add up. Your story about someone at school was questionable at best. It didn't come up again after we talked, so I assumed I was safe. So you found it strange after all then. I hung my head and squeezed my eyes shut for a moment, perhaps prepared to dig my heels in. I told you the truth. There's no other reason for my mistakes. If you think I'm avoiding you, it's only because I happen to be leaving at the same time. I'm sorry if that made you uncomfortable. Oh man, she's all like, I swear. I've just been avoiding you unreasonably for the last few days because no reason. Professor Asagi sighed again, then rested his chin on his interlaced fingers. Neither one of us was willing to back down. Our statements went on for a bit. Our stalemate went on for a bit until it was Professor Asagi who broke the
江原
silence.
かな子さん。
Kanako Ihara. What? My head snapped up before I could stop myself. When our eyes locked, he smiled gently.
やっと顔を上げてくれたね。
You're finally looking me in the eye.
私もあのドラマのエンドロールを見て思い出したよ。
I remember her when I was watching the credits
父の
roll.
弟子だった江原かな子さん。
Kanako
彼
Ihara
女の本名が
was my
上田だった
father's
ことを。
disciple, and her real surname was Uda. Oh.
それで思い当たった。君の様子がおかしくなったのはあの時からだったし。
When I thought back on it, I realized you'd been acting strangely ever since you heard about her.
もう一度だけ言うよ。こじれる前に事情を聞かせてほし
You
い。
sound so mean. I'll ask you one more time. Let's not complicate this any
もし
further.
私に答えられることであれば、君の悩みを解決できるかもしれない。
If it's something you can talk to me about, I might be able to help you solve it. His words are gentle, but he's leaving me no way out. I pressed my lips tight, feeling the suspense. I did it again, harder, willing everything to stay locked in. Then I set it free. Actually, I want to know who my father is. I slowly opened up to him about myself. As he mentioned, my mother was a screenwriter. She passed away when I was a child. She and my grandmother raised me, and I grew up without knowing my father. Before my grandmother passed away, she told me that my father had most likely worked on Pretend to Love. The whole reason I decided to pursue screenwriting was to learn who my father was. Wild. And if your father took my mom under his wing, they might have been close. Closer than she would have been with any other member of the crew. My mom passed away without telling me a thing, and all I've had to go on is my grandma's suspicion. She must have gotten pregnant by someone on set. There weren't any other men in her life at the time. Since your father was my mother's mentor, he might have helped her with the film. There's a connection.
なるほど。そういうことか。
I see. So this is what this is all
そ
about.
れで、私の父を自分の父と。
We
私は
might,
実の
I
兄
can't.
かもしれないと。
We might share the same father, which would make us siblings. My mentor sighed deeply, his hands still folded
確か
tight.
に、師弟関係だった以上、つながりがあったのは間違いないね。
The relationship
行
between a
動を共
mentor
にすることも多かっただろう。
and a mentee is indeed a strong one. They would have worked side by side often. Right.
だけど、あのドラマと父は
Ah.
無関係だよ。
However, my father had nothing to do with that film. Huh?
プリテンド・トゥ・ラブの制作期間、そして放映された時期も含めて、
When,
私の父は日本にいなかった。
when Pretend to Love was being filmed and even broadcast in Japan, he wasn't in the country. Really? But even if he wasn't involved, my mom might have. I trailed off, unable to
父は
continue.
脚本に関係するものは自らの目で確かめに行かないと納得しない人だったからね。
My father was the sort of man who wouldn't associate with a script unless he saw it in with his own two
時
eyes.
期を照らし合わせてみたけど、あのドラマの制作期間中はヨーロッパへ単身渡っていたはず。
I compared to dates myself. Actually, when the drama was still in production, he was on a solo trip in
2
Europe.
年ほどは行っていたのではないかな。君の年齢から考えても、その可能性のある時期は日本にはいなかった。
I believe he was gone for about 2 years. Considering your age, he just wasn't in Japan at the time. Where were you? You were a
私
child.
の記憶が確かなら、日本を立つ前には師弟関係のようなものは解消していたと思うよ。
If memory serves, he had already severed any such ties by the time he left the
君のお
country.
母さんに仕事の話が来るようになってきたからという理由で
This
独り
may
立ちということだろうね。
this may have been why your mother had this opportunity to begin with. It was her chance to strike out on her own. And born from that was the
そして
film.
日本に帰ってきた時にはドラマは放映も終わっていた。私の知る限りそれで間違いない。
By the time he returned to Japan, the movie had already finished airing. That's the honest truth as far as I can tell. So that's what happened. In other words, your father and my mother basically had no contact at the
そう
time.
いうことになるかな。
I believe that to be the case. After hearing his dispassionate explanation, I felt all the strength leave my body. Professor Asagi's father had nothing to do with the film. He wasn't even in Japan. He wouldn't have met with my mom while she was working in Japan. If he isn't my father, then Professor Asagi isn't my brother either. I was awash with relief at the revelation that Professor Asagi and I weren't related after all. At the same time, my hopes of learning something about my father had been dashed in an instant. I see. I can't believe how rude I've been to you, all because of some baseless suspicion. Words can't express how sorry I am. My voice trembled, but somehow I managed to keep myself together as I apologized to my mentor and his father. Professor Asagi released his hands at last and smiled bitterly.
現実は物語とは違ってそう簡単にはできていないものだね。
Reality, unlike fiction, is never so simple. You're right. Maybe it was just my flight of fancy, but a mentor and student wouldn't be that close.
でもこれでいろいろと納得がいったよ。君が合宿中、西島君や瀬名君とよく話していたのも。
In retrospect, it all makes sense. I noticed you speaking to Nishijima and Sina often throughout
こ
the
の件
camp.
が少なからず関係していた。そういうことだね。
You were following your threads of parentage, weren't you? I was. I'm sorry for bringing my personal issues to
それは
work.
別に構わないよ。ただ、仕事に影響のない範囲でね。
I don't mind, but try not to let it affect
あ
your
まり
job.
他のことに集中しすぎると、どうしても本業がおろそかになるからね。
If you're too preoccupied with other matters, it'll only distract you from your duties. I'm painfully aware.
では、話はこれで終わりにしよう。
Then I think we can take our leave at that. I dipped my head in indifference and stood up from the chair.
また何かあれば相談に来なさい。では、
Mm.
おやすみなさい。
If anything happens, come to me. Good night. Good night. I stood there, lost in thought as I listened to my mentor's retreating footsteps. Professor Sagi's father can't possibly be my father, considering the circumstances. He couldn't, but Professor Asagi was acting a little different than usual. He suddenly cut the conversation short. He just told me I could talk to him anytime and left before I could say anything else. I shook my head to ward off the encroaching doubt. What now, though? I haven't quite come to terms with this. I closed my eyes and tried to dispel the swelling sense of suspicion within me. We did it! Episode 3. Interesting. I could have sworn it goes chapter or episode 4 is the first one for everybody else. So his is earlier. But he has less pictures, so we'll see how this goes. The next day, I thought about Professor Asagi's attitude from last night, but what he said made sense. If I make any more mistakes, it'll be awkward for him. After all, he referred me. According to the other candidates, this audition camp could completely change their lives. I can't make the same kind of mistake. I should focus on the task at hand. I often went out to get supplies as requested, but it was important to be proactive, and so I started taking requests when I had free time. I saw someone I'd recognized and ran up to talk to him. Kazuma. Oh, no, just kidding. Mr. Hanai, Mr. Cameraman, if there's anything you need, I can get it. I can go and get it for you.
お嬢ちゃん気が利くな。実はちょっと喉の調子が悪くてよ。
Aw, used to your considerate little missy. Actually, my throat's been acting up on me. Are you okay, Hanai?
暑いからってクーラーつけっぱで寝たのが良くなかったのかもな。
It's getting hot, so I slept with the AC blasting. Not such a good idea in retrospect. Ah, it's been getting pretty stuffy lately.
とりあえず喉飴を買ってきてもらえるか。レモンのやつ。
For now, can you get me some cough drops? The lemon flavored ones, please. Sure, cough drops lemon from Mr. Hanai. I jotted it down so I wouldn't forget, then turned to the cameraman. What about you, Phantom? Is there anything you need, Mr. Cameraman?
香水があったら買ってきてくれると助かる。僕の売店は軟水しかなくてね。
That's a lot of work. It's not high priority, but if you can see it, can you get me sparkling water? They only have regular at the store here. Where the heck am I going? Sparkling water. Got it. I'll go look for it.
ちょっとビニールテープを補充しといてほしいんだけど。
We need more plastic tape too. Okay, I think they sell them at the home improvement stores nearby. Anything else? 5 plastic tapes, 3 adhesive tapes, and red pens. I talked to other staff members too and took notes on what we needed so I didn't forget. Alright, time to go shopping. Went on crazy adventures. Candidate Koyama. Hey, can you get me something too?
ちょうど欲しいものがあったんだ。
Me too, I need some things as well. Who's paying for these things? Right when I was about to leave, some of the others there for the audition approached me. Everyone's busy with acting lessons from here on out. Sure, what do you
これ
need?
は歯ブラシ。4列のコンパクトなやつで、毛の硬さは柔らかめのな。
A toothbrush, a compact one with 4 rows of bristles and soft string.
僕はプレミアムキューティクルシャンプーを頼みたい。ストレスで毛先が傷んじゃって。
I need a premium moisturizing shampoo, please. My hair is dry from stress. Give me just a moment. I'll write it down so I don't forget. If they were this particular about it, I needed to make sure I got the right thing. I quickly jotted it down.
もうちょい強力な日焼け止め欲しいと思ってたんだ。買ってきてよ。
I was just thinking I need extra strength sunscreen. Buy that for me, yeah?
俺もクール成分入ってるやつ。
Me too. One that has cooling effect
虫除けスプレーも欲しいな。
and bug spray. Sure. They keep adding more, so I can't write it all down. Could you repeat that?
俺たちも暇じゃないんだからさ。
Then you don't get it, Yatsuya. Really? Come on, we're busy. Don't make us say it again. Sorry. If I went and got the supplies myself, then they could use this time to prepare for the auditions. That was what I thought, at least, but they were speaking too fast. If you need multiple things, you could write it down for me. It would help.
これは君の仕事だろ。しっかりしてくれよ。
Isn't that your job? You should do it better. Oh, I don't like you. Right, sorry. When they pointed out that was my job, there was nothing I could say. I tried to confirm with them one more time so I didn't buy the wrong thing, but then I felt someone behind me.
寄ってたかってこの暑い中女の子走らせるとかさ。ありえなくない？
The heat outside's miserable. You're making a girl run your errands. You're all terrible. Cena!
上田ちゃんも。俺らの分の買い出しまで行く必要ないっしょ。
Uda, you don't have to do the
怪
shopping
我
for
して
us.
動けないわけじゃあるまいし。休憩時間だってちゃんとあるんだから。それくらい自分で買いに行けって話
Oh,
を。
Cena. You are my favorite. It's not like our legs are broken. Besides, we get breaks, so we can buy our own stuff during them. Cena, thanks for being so considerate.
これだからモデル上がりは早いんだよな。
You models are some troublemakers. Right when I was thanking Cena, someone interrupted, sounding
お前
irritated.
さ、本業はモデルだろ。ずっと思ってたんだけど、ここにいるのバチバチ。
Man, hostility's high in this world. Your main job is modeling, right? I always thought this, but I think you're in the wrong place.
思ってたよりも演技できてたけどさ、事務所のコネで残ったんだろ、どうせ。
You might be an okay actor, but your agency probably got you in here.
これにかけてるんだ。遊び感覚でオーディション受けられちゃ迷惑なんだよ。
Our lives depend on this. If you think this audition is some kind of game, then you're nothing but trouble. I know what everyone here is serious about this, but the way they're talking about him.
まあそう思われても仕方ないか。浮いてるのは俺が一番自覚してるしね。
I can't help if you think that way. I know I don't fit in. Huh? Cena was always lighthearted, and I wasn't sure what he thought about the auditions, but even I, an amateur, could tell he was serious. I was sure he had his own philosophy on acting, but should he be admitting that in front of all these people here?
ずいぶんおとなしいじゃん。派手なのは見かけだけか？
So you're not gonna deny it? Seems like your confidence is always for show.
言えてる。
I don't like these guys. I'm glad none of you got picked and have no face, you ghost jerks. They were preparing for a fight, looking for an excuse, but all they got was agreement. So they started laughing at him. They were getting carried away, so I couldn't stand it anymore. Please wait. I turned to the three candidates and they glared at me. They're scary, but Cena is a famous model, but there's no reason to be divisive.
なんだよ。別にあんたには関係ないだろ。
What's your problem? What's it to you? I'm part of the staff, so I've seen everyone from the start. I also watched lessons during the camp. Everyone here is serious about their role. You may be rivals, but you're both passionate. Anyone can audition regardless of their background. If it's just about past achievements, then Cena has plenty. What? But that's why everyone here was selected based purely on their abilities. And here you are, singling out and insulting a peer. It makes me question your humanity. Duh. Oof, I told them. I just gone with the flow and said what I thought. I slowly looked up to gauge their reactions.
なんで君にそこまで言われなきゃいけないんだ。
Why do we have to listen to you?
スタッフって言っても大した仕事してるわけじゃないだろ。
You may be a staff member, but you barely do anything here. I know. I knew they were mad. I should apologize for going
朝から
overboard.
みんな元気ですね。
Well, isn't everyone full of energy this morning? The whole situation was like a powder keg waiting to explode, but a clear voice pierced through the tension.
でも
Nishijima!
そろそろレッスン室へ行かないと心象が悪くなるんじゃないでしょうか。
You should go to the
他のみん
lesson
な
room
は
if you don't want to
も
be
う集ま
tardy.
り始めてるから。
Everyone's already in there. Before we knew it, Nishijima was standing next to us smiling. He was enough to alter the atmosphere completely. It seemed everyone had a lot of respect for Nishijima. Much to my relief, this animosity disappeared.
西島さんはいいですよね。こんなオーディションなんて受けなくても、もう決まったも同然でしょ。
Nishijima, I envy you. You don't even need to audition. The role's
僕たち
practically
みたいな
yours.
素人なんか視界にも入ってないでしょうね。
I don't even notice amateurs like you. You don't even have faces. I'm sure you don't even notice amateurs like us. That's a terrible thing to say.
僕はこれまで一度もそんな風に思ったことはないです。
I've never thought that, not in the
おごりもネ
slightest.
タにも演技の質を落とすだけだ。そんなこともわからないんですか？
Concrete and envy will only reduce your quality of acting. Don't you realize that? Nishijima's words gave me a glimpse of how strict he was as an actor. Everyone went silent, overwhelmed by the pressure and the atmosphere turned awkward. Then someone broke the silence. Hey!
たくこんなとこにいたのか。
Lee, there you are.
なんか空気重くね？
What's going on? Why is everyone so quiet? You can't read the room. I turned to Makano, who came in behind Kazuma. You two seem to be in a hurry. Is everything
花井
okay?
さんに上田さんが買い出しに行こうとしてたって言われて探してたんです。
And I told me you were going out for supplies, so I was looking for you.
足3連生としてお前だけに任すわけにはいかねえからな。
Since we're a trio, we can't just let you do all the work. Oh, okay. Well, here's what I have.
あ、そのメモが買うものですよね。
Is that paper your
見せてください。
shopping list? Let me see. Okay. Makino took the memo and scanned the list.
花井さんとカメラマンさんの分はともかく、残りはこの人た
Besides
ちの分
Tanai
で
and the
すか？
cameraman, the rest of these items are for these people?
まあ他のついでだったらいいのかもしんないけど、オーディションメンバーの分まで買い出し行ってたらキリなくないか？
It's fine if it's on our way, but if we have to go shopping for the audition candidates too, there'll be no end to it.
そっちが買ってくるものないかって言い出したんだぞ。
You're the one who asked if we needed anything.
そうだ。別に無理やり買いに行かせようとしたわけじゃ。
It's not like we're forcing her to shop for us. I was about to run out of supplies anyways. And I thought if I went for them, they could focus more on their lessons. Eh? Ugh.
だからって、お前はそうやって何でも引き受けようとするのやめろよな。
There's no reason for you to take on so much by yourself.
別に。僕たちは雑用スタッフとしてここにいるわけですから。
We're not odd
買
jobbing
い
it
出しを
here.
引き受けることは悪いとは思いませんが、彼女のこのメモを見る限り、ちょっと。
I'm not saying helping them with their errands is bad, but this list is excessive.
ちょっと調子に乗りすぎって感じっすね。
Don't you think you're getting a little carried away?
ほら、もう終わりにしようよ。
Oh, now, let's all
こ
move
んな
on.
ことで時間食ってたら、彼女のレッスン時間を作るためにっていう心遣いが無駄になっちゃうよ。
If we waste any more time, her sweet gesture to give us more time will go
俺
unappreciated.
もあんたらも経験の乏しい者同士、頑張んなきゃ。ね。
We all could use more experience, so let's work hard at it, yeah?
わかったよ。
Fine.
行こうぜ。
Let's
な
go.
んかいろいろ悪い。
Sorry. After the others joined in, the candidates calmed down. They left the lesson room looking embarrassed.
ああ、上田ちゃんのピンチを助けて一人勝ちしたかったのにな。
I wanted to swoop in and rescue Ula. Winner takes
この
all.
次から次へと現れたら、俺の見せ場がなくなるっての。
If you guys keep showing up, I won't get my time to shine.
セナさんもこいつを助けようとしてたんすか？
You're trying to help too, Sina?
そうだよ。この俺がお姫様のピンチにズババッとのはずが、逆に彼女にかばわれちゃったけど。
Of course, when the princess is in danger, I have to come save the day. At least I tried. But she defended me instead. I didn't really do
そうした
anything.
ら、今度こそってところで、西島さんまで来ちゃってさ、ちゃっかりいいとこ持ってっちゃって。
I thought my chance had came, but then you swooped in, Nisajima, and took all the credit.
僕は彼女を助けようとしたわけじゃなく、ただ当たり前のことを言っただけだよ。
Nisajima. I wasn't trying to save her or anything. I merely did what was right.
ああ、それが痺れたのなんのって。上田ちゃんも痺れたよね。
But it was impressive, don't you agree? I do. This might not be the best way to say it, but knowing that someone like you, Nisajima, knowing you're taking the audition so seriously as well, well, you're just a great person.
大げさだよ。でも君の方がすごいんじゃないか
This isn't
な。
our love story, Nisajima. We had that one already. And you were mean to me for half of it. You're exaggerating. I'll say you're greater. Huh?
男性陣に向かってまさかあんな風に単価を切るなんて。
It must have been scary to face those men head on so defiantly. No, I was kind of harsh. I should apologize later.
女、一体何言ったんだよ。
The hell did you
でもあれ
say?
は自分にじゃなくセナさんが言われたことに対して怒ってたから。
You weren't saying it for you. You were upset about what they said about Sina. You were listening?
途中からだったけど声大きかったから聞こえちゃって。
Only halfway through, but you did raise your voice, so I just overheard it. This is so embarrassing.
そうそう。上田ちゃんの愛を感じちゃったな。
I certainly felt Uda's love.
愛どういうことだよ、そこんとこ詳しく。
Love? What's that supposed to mean? Details? This is a misunderstanding.
あ、セナさんと西島さんもそろそろ移動した方がいいんじゃないで
Ah,
しょうか。
Sina, Nishijima, isn't it about time you got moving? Nishijima pulled out his phone to check, then nodded.
あ、そうだね。注意しておいて僕が遅刻するわけにはいかないし。
Right, we should be more aware of the time. I can't be late after all.
確かに。じゃあ行きますか。
Yeah, let's get going. Thank you both for earlier. Good luck with your
やった
lessons.
上田ちゃんからのエールいただきました
My sweetie's cheering me on.
お応援してます。
I'm rooting for you too.
中堅くんもサンキュー。
Thanks, you're like a loyal
な
dog.
んすかそのテンションの差は。
What's that supposed to mean?
あ、そうだ。
Oh yeah, Uda.
さっきのさ、あいつらのことを悪く思わないでやってよ。イライラする気持ちわからなくないからさ。
Don't worry too much about those guys from earlier. They're just irritable right now.
もうすぐオーディションが終わってしまう不安と恐怖。
The auditions are ending, so anyone would be anxious and
Ma-
afraid.
あいつらが本当はいいやつだって。 君らの方が分かってると思うけどね。
I'm sure you guys know better than I do, though. Since I'm not an actor, Sina winked, then waved as he and Nishijima left for the lesson. I watched them go.
恐怖。
さ
Afraid.
っきの3人は未経験者の人たちですよね。
For those three, it's their first time. Yeah, and unlike those who are already in show business, this camp will decide how they move forward. I'm sure they're worried about it.
あの人たちは普段はもっと明るくていい人たちだよな。
They're usually nicer and
怖くて
friendlier.
虚勢を張ってないと落ち着かなくて、自分より弱そうな相手に当たってしまう。
They're so afraid of
なんとなく
failing
わかる気がします。
that they put on an act to mask their anxiety. I can see how they end up taking it out on others. I can too.
それにしても、さっきのセナさんの言葉。あれって、僕たちが心情調査してるのを知ってそうな口ぶりでしたね。
Remember the way what Cena said earlier? It sounded like he'd looked us up or something.
セナさん、あんな調子のくせにめちゃくちゃアンテナ張ってるもんな。
Cena looks so innocent, but he's got his ear to the ground. I think I know what you mean. He seems close with
そ
every
れ言ったら
other
お前
staff.
も
That goes for you too, huh?
あんま自分から話せてないみたいだったけど、すっかり打ち解けてんじゃんか。
You're not one to start conversations often, but everyone likes you. Earlier, it was more like I just happened to
と
be
りあえ
here.
ず、花江さんたちに頼まれたものを買いに行きましょうか。
For now, let's go get the supplies Sanai asked for. Okay. Do. I really only interacted with the others when it was necessary for work. However, after that, I was able to talk to Sina and Nisijima more. On the other hand, I wasn't able to speak to Professor Asagi as much as before. Even when we talk about work, it's all business. We don't just chat like we used to. I know he's here for a job, but I thought we'd gotten closer lately. I could think of only one reason he'd suddenly be distant. He started acting strange after we talked about my mother. Professor Asagi was opening up more like I was until I told him that. Maybe he does know something. I'm not so sure though. Although I couldn't help but wonder about it, I didn't want to dig things up again. Plus, Professor Asagi supported my dreams to become a screenwriter, so I didn't want to cause him any more trouble. Ever since the open house, when I was deciding about college, I wanted to check out Professor Asagi's lecture, but the campus is so much bigger than I thought. Maybe I took a wrong turn. While I was wandering around looking for the lecture hall,
どうかしたんですか？
is something wrong? Someone called from me from behind. I flinched and spun around. But Professor Asagi! Ichiro Asagi, a famous up-and-coming screenwriter, was starting here as a guest lecturer. I was looking at other colleges that also had lecture departments, but this was my first choice. Professor Asagi was the clincher. I didn't expect to see him up so close.
そんなに凝視されると少し照れますね。
Your staring's making me uncomfortable. Sorry. I came to hear your lecture, Professor Asagi.
オープンキャンパス用の特別講義ですね。
You're here for the open campus special lecture then?
とい
Yes.
うことは、来年君はここの大学の学生になるかもしれないわけですか。
So you're a potential new student for next year. Yes. At least I want to go here if it's possible. But to be honest, I'm kind of hesitant.
というと、
Why is that? My family passed away not too long ago, so it's just me now. Why am I saying this to someone I just met and to Professor Asagi at that? They did leave me some money to live on, but attending a four-year college is expensive. I can't seem to stop talking. I thought about giving up and just getting a job instead.
なるほど。
I see. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm saying all this.
気にしないでください。ただ、
Don't worry. It's a difficult
難しい社会
decision.
に出て働いて得るものもあるし、大学で学んで得るものもあります。
Getting a job immediately after graduation would be valuable, but you can learn a lot from
ど
college
ち
as
らが
well.
君にとっていいか、私には判断できません。
You have to decide for yourself which option is better for you. Right.
私の講義を聞きに来たということは、君は将来、小説家や脚本家を目指しているのでしょうか。
Since you're here for my lecture, are you interested in becoming an author or a screenwriter? I am. I write scripts for my high school drama right now. Eventually, I'd love to work on all kinds of screenplays just like you. Professor Asagi paused for a moment as if he was
厳
hesitating.
しいことを言うようですが、憧れているだけでは夢はつかめませんよ。
Might sound harsh, but just wanting something won't make it happen. You're right, it takes time to write scripts. And I'm bad at crafting stories about
ま
relationships
だ
too.
君は若い。これから人生経験を積んでいけば、文章にも深みが出てくるはずです。
You're still young. Life experience will add depth to your writing. I know it will be tough, but I still want to become a screenwriter as fast as I can.
早くです
As
か。
fast as you can. Professor, at 21, you won an award for a novel and then another for a script when you were 23. I respect you. I respect how you were able to prove yourself at such a young age.
脚本の賞に応募したときは名前を伏せていましたが、
When I submitted my script for the award, I had to keep my name a secret. Yeah, I saw on the internet that you used a different name for the award, but
小説を
why?
コンテストに出したとき、受賞後、私があの脚本家の浅木誠二の息子と知った途端、
When I
忖
entered the
度か
novel
何だと
contest,
騒ぎ
and
立てる人たちがいたので、
sorry. When I entered the novel contest and won, people said it was rigged and I only won because I was Seiji Asagi's
な
son.
らばと、脚本はペンネームで出したんですが、結局バレたときに非難されました。
That's why I used a pseudonym for the script, but when people found out, they were livid. I was in elementary school then, so I didn't hear about any of that. I didn't see the show based on the script until way later. They used your name then.
今となってはいい思い出だけれど、
Perhaps it's been it long enough that it's a good memory now. I've seen so many of your shows and movies you've written, so I can confidently say you earned that award on your abilities alone, without a doubt.
嬉しいことを言ってくれますね。
You flatter me. Professor Asagi smiled bashfully, but he quickly reverted to his serious
最初は
expression.
教壇に立って人に教えるなんて柄じゃないと思っていたのですが、
You know, I had doubts when I started out teaching. I didn't think I'd be good at all, but we all have to start
もし
somewhere.
君が進学の道を選んだ暁には
If you do
夢をつ
decide
か
to
む
go
お手伝
here,
いをしますよ。
I will help you achieve your dream. Really?
ええ。あ、そうだ。
Right. Professor Asagi took something from his bag and approached me.
名前は
What's your name? Lee Uda.
では、上田さん。手を出してもらえますか。
Would you hold out
手のひらを上に向けて。
your hand palm up? My hand? I did as he asked, and he held out my hand. Giving me candy? Is that a
君の夢を
Is that
手
a
助け
truffle?
する約束とエールを込めて。
as a token of my
Candy
promise to
also.
help you with your dream? Here's a piece of candy. Wild candy.
コーヒーキャンディーです。あ、もしかして苦手ですか。
It's coffee candy. Do you not like coffee? I do. I'm just surprised it was candy since you're so mature.
実は禁煙をしていた頃、よ
It's
く
important.
口寂しくなりまして、
I use candy to help me quit
そこから
smoking.
タバコよりはとキャンディーを口にするようになったんです。
Instead of a cigarette, I'd grab candy. I
とはい
see.
え、確かに改めて言われるとなんだか恥ずかし
It's
いです、ね。
embarrassing to say it out loud. Oh no, I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry.
じゃあ、このことは二人の秘密という
It
こ
can
と
be
で
our little secret. Okay.
いや、もし他の学生にバレてねだられたりしたら、自分の分がなくなってしまいますから。
If other students were to find out and ask me for a piece, I wouldn't have any left for myself. Right. Eiichirou Asagi is my role model. He's like a superhero to me. He doesn't feel real. I never expected him to smile like that.
とにかく、まだ時間はあります。勉強のこと、現在と未来の自分のこと、
Anyways, there's still time to decide whether you want to
も
continue your
ちろんお金
studies.
のこともじっくり考えてみてください。
The same goes for the tuition issue. I hope you think it over
現
carefully.
段階で私にはこうやって声をかけることしかできませんが、
As it stands, all I can
も
offer
し
you is
君がこの大
advice.
学に入ったなら、私にできるサポートはさせてもらいます。あと、たまにキャンディーもね。
But if you do decide to go here, I will support you as much as I can and maybe provide candy sometimes. Oh. It's an honor to hear you say that, Professor Asagi. Thank you very
こ
much.
れも何かの縁。
Perhaps it's fate that we
あな
met
たがさ
here.
っき苦手だと話していた人と人の絆を描く際の参考になればいいのですが。
You said you struggle to write relationships, so I hope I can be used to you. Relationship? Professor Asagi and me. Dang, was he hitting on her day one? After that, I attended Professor Asagi's special lecture. It helped me decide. I put the candy he gave me in the fridge because it felt like a waste to eat. When I did eventually eat it, I stored the wrapper in my desk. I knew she was going to keep that wrapper, and looked at it when studying for the entrance exam. His words from then gave me strength. In April, I managed to pass the exams and started studying under Professor Asagi. Professor Asagi has taken great care of me ever since I started college. If I'm too persistent with my questions and he grows to dislike me, I remember his smile that day as he cheered me on. Will we be able to talk like that we used to? I bought this coffee candy when I went out to buy supplies. Oh dang, I forgot. I had a new word. I hadn't had a new word in so long. A slightly bitter yet sweet candy. When the protagonist was in high school, she used to visit Koyu University and met Ichiro Asagi. When she admitted she was worried about her future, Asagi gave her a piece of candy to encourage her. Asagi used it to help quit smoking. I did read that one, okay. I wanted to give it to Professor Asagi personally, but... Dun dun dun. All right, let me cross my legs. Audition camp lasted 2 weeks, and we were already in the second half. Starting with the second week, the 10 candidates were divided in half, and each group had to shoot a short film to present at the end. I was chosen to write the script for the experienced group. That left Professor Asagi writing the script for the inexperienced group. For better or worse, we had our own jobs to do, so it wasn't too surprising that we didn't have time to speak to each other. Every now and then the script was completed, everyone was busy filming, with amateur director Makino leading the way for our team. One day, during a break between scenes, hey little Missy, how you doing? Hello, Director Hanai. Director, are you teasing me? I'm sorry, filming is going great. Makino is working really hard. That's good to hear. When he was assigned to do the... My apologies. When he was assigned to be the director, he looked as if the world was ending. Glad to hear he found his stride. It's not just Harumi. Everyone has changed a lot since camp started. Well, Ichiro's been acting kind of strange, though. Strange? What do you mean? Is he not feeling well? Nothing like that. Hanai smiled, albeit awkwardly, but he seemed hesitant to continue. It feels like we did. You guys have been talking a lot recently, but not now, right? Did you guys have a fight or something? Actually, how much does he like me? That's a lot for the first chapter. Dang. Okay, he's probably not as many chapters because he doesn't have as many pictures either. You guys have been talking a lot until recently, but not now, right? Did you guys fight or something? No, we didn't. Gotcha. I got curious and asked Ichido. but his reaction went totally overboard. It was something else. He was scary. About me? What did he say? What did you say to him? I leaned in to hear his response, but I just smiled wearily.
まあまあ、落ち着けって。
Whoa there. Sorry, I just had some family stuff going on. I let it affect my work, and Professor Asagi asked me about it. I think he's been avoiding me ever since. It's been hard to bring myself to talk to him with him pushing me away.
なるほど。
I see.
まあ、話したっつってもな。ほんの冗談だったんだが。
When I talked to him, I kind of
お嬢
joked
ちゃんは
around.
気配り上手だし。最近は特に頑張ってるからな。
You're so considerate and
俺のマ
hardworking.
ネージャーになってくれたらなーって、栄一郎に言ったわけだ。
I would love to be your manager, Hanai. I joked that you should become my manager, and then he.
何を言ってるんですか。彼女には脚本家になるという夢があるんですよ。
What are you saying? Her dream is to be a screenwriter.
分かってるって。ちょっとした冗談だろ。マジに取るなよ。
It was a joke. Take it
彼女
easy,
のこと
man.
を気に入っているのは事実でしょう。
But it's true that you've taken a liking to
そりゃ
her.
まあそうじゃなきゃ冗談でもこんなこと言わねえけど。
So you do like me, Hanai? Well, I wouldn't have joked about it if I
にして
didn't.
もお前が声を荒らげるなんて。そんなにお嬢ちゃんが大事なのか？
I didn't expect you to get all bothered like that. She that important
教
to
え
you?
子ですからね。
She's my student.
またまた。さっきの一生徒に対する感じじゃなかったぞ。もしかして禁断の。
Doesn't sound like she's just that. It's like some kind of
Hanai-san.
forbidden.
その手の冗談、私は嫌いです。
Hanai, don't even joke about that.
悪い。
Sorry, got carried away.
私も大人げなかったです。
I'm sorry,
Amazing.
I was being immature.
てな感じで、どんより暗くなっちまってな。
Things turned a bit gloomy
い
after
つも
that.
なら、俺の冗談なんて適当に流すか、鼻から相手にしないんだが。
Normally he'd just brush me off or not even
さっ
acknowledge
きの
me.
避けられてるかもって話といい。お嬢ちゃんのことで何か思うことがあるのかもしれねえな。
From what you said about him avoiding you, you must have an idea what's been going on. I know it. Maybe what I said offended
お
him.
い、お嬢ちゃんはこの合宿所のオアシスなんだから。そんなくらいと。
She's
俺の
so
モチベーションま
she's
で下がって。
so bad. Come on, you're a ray of sunshine here. If you go getting all gloomy, we're all lose our motivation. I don't want that to happen. But what do you mean by ray of sunshine?
そこはスルーしてくれ。
Don't worry about it. You like me, Hanai. Why aren't you an
ま
option?
あ、俺にできることがあったら力になるからさ。しょぼくれた顔しないでくれよ。
If there's anything I can do, let me know. Don't make such a long face, you hear? Thank you, Mr. Hanai. Before he left, Hanai patted my shoulders and told me to cheer up. Maybe my relationship with Professor Asagi up until this point was more special than I realized. Maybe after I told him about my family, he was trying to help me by investigating on his own, but he's so busy. I hate that this is stressing him out. Professor Asagi's main job was screenwriting, so he needs to focus on that right now. It's kind of sad though. I tried to stay out of his way and avoided talking to him unless necessary. Seems like a bad option. The audition camp continued, feeling both long and short at the same time. Sina, Nishijima, and the other candidates gave it their all. I had no idea that my script was going to be visualized so well. It made me really happy that I could help everyone better themselves. The audition results would still take time, but everyone seemed to be so pleased with the outcome. Finally, it was the last night of camp, and Makino and I were busy cleaning up. Dun dun.
上田ちゃん、はるみちゃん、お疲れ。
Uda, Harumi, good work, you guys. Hi, Sina. Sina entered the lesson room with Kazuma in rear and Nishijima sandwiched between them. You guys look like you're getting along now.
そうなんだよ。やっぱ、同じ釜の飯を食ったってやつ優勝が芽生えちゃってね。
We lived under the same roof, so to speak, so of course we'd become friends.
上田さん、違うから。僕は強引に セナさんと上久保くんに連行されただけだから。
Don't get the wrong idea, Masuda. Sina and Kami Kubo forced me to come here. Huh?
これから祭りに繰り出すってのに、そんな辛いこと言わないでくださいよ。
Don't be such a spoiled sport. We're going to the festival.
ああ、そういえば、そんなことを誰かが話していたような。
Festival? Oh yeah, I heard something about
この
that.
近くの神社でやってるんだって。僕は行くつもりなかったんだけど。
It's a nearby shrine. I didn't plan on going, but
いやいや、夏合宿最終日とくれば行く気ゃないですって。
this is like saying if she doesn't bother these four guys, they'd be friends. That's kind of funny. Come on, it's the last day of camp. You gotta go.
そうそう、同じ苦難を分かち合った仲間じゃないですか。
Yeah, we've been through the ringer together, so we're practically brothers.
そうは言っても、人通りも多いし。僕もだけど、君、自分が有名人だってことを忘れてない？
Say what you want, but it'll be crowded. Have you forgotten that you and I are famous?
お、バレて騒ぎになったら大変ですよね。
It'd be bad if we were recognized.
そういうわけで、僕は。
Yeah, so anyways, I'll be...
大丈夫っす。バレないように俺が別人に変えますんで。
It'll be fine. I'll make you unrecognizable so no one will notice.
そのメイク道具、どこから？
Huh? Sina? Where'd you get that makeup?
俺が頼んどいたんです。さあ、上久保ちゃん。俺が西島さんを抑えてるから、やっちゃって
I asked for it. Come on, Kamikubo. I'll hold Nishijima down and you apply it as fast as you can.
ロジャー、メイキャップの時間っすよ。西島さん。
Roger that. It's time to get beautiful, Nishijima.
うっ
Or they're gonna use his hair from his story. Sina and Kazuma held Nishijima down and glammed him up. Makino and I simply stood by and watched.
上田さんはお祭りどうします？
Masuda, what are you doing for the festival? Oh, I'm not really in a festival mood right now.
もし行かれるなら、あとは僕がやっておこうと思ったんですが。
If you were going, I was gonna offer to take care of the rest here. I couldn't do that. Besides, it's part of my job, and it'll be faster if we do it together.
そうですね。あと少しですし、二人で頑張りましょう。
You're right. There's only a little bit left, so let's get it done. Yeah. By the time we finished cleaning up, Kazuma was putting the final touches on Nishijima's makeup.
あとはこのウィッグをかぶれば完璧っす。
Now just put on this wig and you're done.
さすが西島さん。女装も似合いますね。
Nishijima, you look good in drag too.
180センチ超えの女なんて、そうそういないだろう。
It's not every day you see a woman taller than 180 centimeters. Nishijima obviously hated it. He wrapped a prop scarf around his head and huddled in the corner of the room. Aren't there other types of camouflage you could have done?
他ってどんなだ？
Like what? Like goth or punk?
それ超見たいかも。なんやかんや言って西島さんならどんな姿も似合いそうですさ。
I want to see that now. Besides, Nishijima looks good in
これ以
anything.
上、君たちのおもちゃになるつもりはないよ。
I won't be your plaything any
これ
longer.
から楽しい祭りに繰り出すんですから、機嫌直してくださいよ。
We're going to a festival. Don't be a stick in the mud. Kazuma, about the festival, I'm going to pass. I hope you all have fun.
後片付けで疲れちまったのか？
Cleanup got you tired? That's part of it. If I said I didn't feel like it, Kazuma would probably worry. Now that everything's finished, I just kind of lost interest. I think I'm going to get some rest. Ah, okay.
なんてこった。せっかくのお祭りに女の子がいないなんて。
Well, the Slacks are going to the festival, but it'll be a
じゃあ
sausage
や
fest.
め。
Then good night.
いやでもそういうことなら仕方ない。
I guess it'll be just us four
今回は
guys this time. They're still going.
4人？いや、僕もそんな気分じゃ。
Four? I'm not really feeling it either.
牧野さん、留学してたなら日本の祭りってあんま行ったことないだろ。
Come on, Makino, you've been abroad way too long. You gotta see a real Japanese
いろんな
festival.
出店もあるらしいし、はるみちゃんもアシスタントとして頑張ってくれたからさ。ねぎらうよ。
There'll be a lot of shop stalls there, and since you've worked so hard all this time, we'll treat
気
you.
持ちは嬉しいんですが、祭りってパリピの集まりですよね。僕が行っても浮くだけ。
Festivals are a gathering of extroverts. I'll just be the odd
マ
one
ク
out.
ロ君、君、今の僕を前にして、よく浮くなんて言えたね。
Did you just say you'd be the odd one out with me
あと
looking like
自分だ
this?
け逃げようとしてない？そんなずるいこと考えてたりしたら。
I'm trying to weasel your way out, and I don't appreciate it. I'm not going to just laugh it off.
すみません。行きます。
I'm sorry. I'll go. Good luck, Maki, now.
あれ、セナさんはいいんですか？変装。
Dina, don't you need a disguise?
ああ、俺は大丈夫。帽子とメガネあるから。
It'll be fine. I got
僕
glasses
も
and a hat.
それでよかったんじゃないの？
Couldn't I have just used those too? I watched the four of them as they got hyped up before deciding to return to my room. They didn't even like try to convince her to go.
お、お嬢ちゃん、ちょうどよかった。探して
Oh,
たんだ。
Missy, I was looking for you. Mr. Hanai, is something
実
wrong?
は、折り入って相談したいことがあってよ。
There's something I want to talk to you
こ
about.
こじゃなんだから、20時になったら祭りやってる神社の本堂前に来てくれ。こんなこと、お嬢ちゃんにしか頼めなくてな。
All right. It'll take a while, so let's meet at the festival shrine around 8 p.m. You're the only one I can ask. You looked unusually serious, so I nodded. Sure, I don't mind helping.
そうか、助かるぜ。じゃ、
I'll see you
後で
later.
ね。
I know you're not flirting with me, but so nice. Okay. I wonder what's up with Mr. Hanai. Whatever it is, I hope I can help. Ooh. Mhm. Must have been serious if he was asking me. Why? Are you a serious person? I was worried the festival would be crowded, so I headed to the shrine early. Mr. Hanai isn't here yet. He's pretty famous and he stands out in a crowd, so is it okay for him to even be here? As a veteran actor, he probably knows how to get around them. While I waited for Mr. Hanai to arrive, I watched the people enjoying the festival and let my mind wander.
彼女、ねえねえ、一人？
Hey, girlie, what you doing out here alone? Huh? A few men who were obviously creepers approached me.
俺たちと一緒に楽しもうよ。
If you're by yourself, why don't you join us?
さあ、歓迎するよ。
Yeah, we'd love to have you. Oh, they're so
ね、
close.
いいじゃん。君もどうせなら楽しみたいでしょ。
I'll show you a good time. No thanks, I'm waiting
ま
for
た
someone.
またちょっと見てたけど、ずっと一人だったじゃん。
I was watching. You've been alone the whole time. That's the point of waiting. That's because I got here early.
いいからさ、行こうよ。
Just come with us. They refused to listen. One of them even reached out for me. What are you doing? I backed away, but it wasn't fast enough, and he grabbed my arm. I tried shaking him off, but he was too strong. Let
そんな
go.
怖がんないでよ。傷ついちゃうな。
Don't be afraid. You'll hurt our feelings. He started to put his arm around my shoulder, and I froze. I'm scared. What do I
君
do?
たち、その子から離れてくれないか。
Hey, you let go of her. Oh, my eyes widened in shock. Professor Asagi.
何、おっさん。
Old man. You guys sound older than him. What the hell you want, old man? Don't
横
interrupt.
入り。それは君たちの方だろう。彼女の待ち合わせの相手は私だ。
Interrupt? That's exactly what you're doing. She and I are meeting here. Professor Asagi shook off the guy holding my arm and then grabbed my shoulder. He forcefully pulled me away from the
だから
men.
邪魔するなよ。
I said, stay out of this.
行こうぜ。
Come on, let's beat it. Professor Asagi must have intimidated them because they vanished into the crowd.
上田さん、大丈夫かい？
Are you alright, Misuda? Yes.
とっさのこととはいえ、慣れ慣れしかったね。すまない。
So sorry, I got caught up in the moment. I didn't respect your personal space. Let's go. Professor Asagi bowed to me. Oh, thank you for helping. If you hadn't shown up, I don't know what would have happened. I shivered, remember the feeling of the man's hand on my arm. They were both strong. I was scared. They could still be hanging around somewhere too. It made me feel uneasy.
君は上久保君たちと一緒だと思っていたよ。
I thought you'd be with Mr. Kami Kubo's group. They invited me, but I didn't feel up to
じゃあ
it.
どうしてここに？
Then why are you here? Mr. Hanai said he had something he wanted to talk to me about. Speaking of, he should have been here by now.
そういうことか。 私も花井さんにここで待っていてほしいと言われたんだ。
So that's it. Hanai told me to meet him here. Really? Then that
花井
means
さんなりに話す機会を作ろうとしてくれたんだろうね。
perhaps Hanai took matters into his own hands and created an opportunity for us to talk. I get it. When I talked to him about it, he said he would try to help. Although I might encounter those creeps again, I can't let the chance Mr. Hanai created for me pass by.
上田さん、合宿所に戻ろう。
Just go back, Masuda. Why? We're already here, so why don't
最初
we...
から乗り気じゃなかったんだろう。無理しなくていい。
I said you didn't feel like it. No need to force yourself. I'm
顔
not.
色が悪い。さっき怖い思いをしたんだ。あまりここにはいたくないだろ。
No, no, no. You look pale. You just went through something upsetting. I'm sure you'd rather leave. Although I didn't say it, Professor Asagi immediately sensed my anxiety. I'm sorry.
謝ることはないよ。
There's no need to apologize. Well, if it's okay with you.
もしよかったら、私に付き
I
合って
thought I
もら
thought
え
I was still the other character. Well, if it's okay with you, will you come with me? Huh? Where are we going? Just
じゃあ
camp?
上田さん、始めようか。
Shall we start, Masuda? Sure. Miss Professor Asagi explained that he had gotten permission from the camp as he held out the fireworks. He handed me one, and we lit them. Oh wow, I haven't played with fireworks since I was
都心じゃ
little.
なかなかできないからね。
It's hard to see them in the city. And the colors change. Professor Saki, did you see it?
ああ、綺麗だね。
Yeah, it's beautiful. Wink, wink, wink. Once these die out, let's do the ones with the character art. It's best to leave sparklers for the end. This is sparklers.
君に任せるよ。
I'll leave that up to you. I'm getting carried away, aren't
い
I?
や、楽しんでもらえているのなら何よりだ。
It's all right. I'm glad you're
せっ
enjoying
かく
it.
頑張ってくれていたのに、最後にケチがつくのは良くないからね。
You've worked hard, so I'd hate for things to end on a
今
sour
日ま
note.
で合宿、お疲れ様。よくやってくれたね。
By the way, good work on camp. You've done well. Did you suggest this because you thought I was still worried about
さ
earlier?
あ、どうだろう。単に私が夏の風物詩としてやってみたかっただけかもしれないよ。
Not exactly. I just wanted to enjoy a summer tradition. Professor Asagi is so kind. My fears from earlier have completely vanished. Thank you, Professor Asagi. I'm glad I took the jump and accepted this job. Like you said, diving headfirst can open up a whole new
君
world.
ならきっとその経験を脚本作りに活かせる。
And you can use this experience for your scripts. I believe it'll be very useful. Yeah, I'll do my best. Oh, look, the festival must be doing a fireworks show
祭り
too.
もそろそろ佳境かな。
Looks like the main event has started.
花火も上がるなんて。手持ち花火なんてしないで、打ち上げ花火を待っていたらよかったかな。
But seeing those fireworks in the sky, maybe we should have waited for them instead of playing with smaller ones. I'm sorry. Are you apologizing? I'm happy I got to experience both with you, Professor Asagi.
うん、そうだね。
Mm,
両方
both are
楽し
good.
んだ方がいいね。
Thank you. Had I not met Professor Asagi, this moment wouldn't exist, and without a doubt, it changed me. The fireworks lit something hot inside me. The camp concluded with this shining memory. The audition results would be finalized coming fall. The sponsors and producers would be involved in the decision, but the director would have the final say. However, even though it hadn't been announced, things were mostly decided, and Professor Sagi was already writing a script based on that. For me, summer vacation was coming to an end, and the new term was about to begin. I was wondering what would happen with my work, and since Professor Asagi was on campus, I'd come to ask him about it.
執筆に入ったら、君の仕事はそんなにないかな。用があったら連絡するよ。
Since the writing began, where your work is practically done, I'll contact you if something comes up. Huh? But then what's the point of me being an assistant?
助手なんてそんなものだよ。
That's just how it goes for
執
assistants.
筆が落ち着いたら、またいろいろやってもらうこともあるかもしれない。
Once things are further
だから
along,
それまでは、
I may have more work for you. But until then, what am I supposed to do in the
それは
meantime?
大学の課題や君自身の執筆もあるだろ。
Your college assignments, your own writing,
Ah.
so on.
もちろん仕事が終わったわけではないから、引き続き賃金は発生するよ。
But that doesn't mean your job is over, so you'll still get paid. Still get paid? I didn't come here because I was worried about the money.
もともとそういう条件で今回の件はお願いしたから。
Of course, but those were the terms set forth when I offered you the job. I know Professor Asagi didn't mean anything else by it, but I couldn't agree to it. Professor, are you just pitying me? It's odd to get paid when I'm not doing my work. Money is important. That's why I have my part-time job. But getting paid when I'm not even doing anything is just... I feel like I'm a charity case. I didn't realize that's how you saw me.
私は
I didn't. It's fine. Please excuse me. And then I ran. I basically ran from the research room and immediately regretted it. Huh? I took my anger out on Professor Asagi. I acted like such a kid. I know better than anyone that he didn't mean anything by it. But I couldn't help thinking that he was just pitying me, seeing me only as a charity case. If there's no work for me to do, then there's nothing I can help with. Getting to know the process and meeting people from the industry was inspiring. Not to mention, I thought I was helping Professor Asagi. Maybe Professor Asagi's sick of me now. I had his contact information so I could just message him later. I didn't want to bother him while he was writing. So a few days passed by before I knew it. Summer vacation was about to end, so I thought maybe I could meet him on campus. But as he was starting writing, he was lecturing less, so I found it hard to see him as much as before. When I started as his assistant, we talked so much. I wish we could go back to that. Even before I became his assistant, he made time to personally check over everything I wrote. But now he only comes to school once a month, and other students are scrambling to meet with him too. I managed to finish my assignments, and I made progress on my own writing, but I had no motivation. It's Kazuma. I checked my phone, then stood in surprise. It's Professor Asagi. Hello. Spoke with Director Makino. I'd like you and Harumi to go locating station scouting. Harumi will have the details. Some work. It's been a while since he contacted me, so I was overjoyed to be helping again. I quickly contacted Makino. A few days later, I met with Makino for the first time since camp had ended.
じゃあ、分担はこんな感じで大丈夫でしょうか?
That's how we'll split the duties. Is that okay with you? Yeah, let's do this. We were all set to go locating scouting, and we just about to leave.
お嬢ちゃんとはるみじゃねえか。
It's little Missy and Harumi. Mr. Hanai, it's been a
Oh.
while.
二人は仕事の打ち合わせか？よしよし、偉いなあ。頭を撫でてやろう。
He sure has. What's up? Meeting up for work? I'm so proud of y'all. Let me pat your head.
上田さん、僕はこれで。
Suda, I'm gonna get going. Makino dashed away at full speed before Mr. Hanai could even get close.
ちぇ、はるみのやつ、つれねえの。
Harumi's such a spoil sport. Seems he's just having trouble dealing with you.
まだまだ成長途中ってことか。
He's still a growing boy.
そうだ。俺、お嬢ちゃんに会ったら謝ろうと思っててよ。
I almost forgot. I need to apologize to you. For what?
ほら、合宿中の祭りのことだ。
About the festival during
それ
camp.
と思って
I
や
mean,
ったんだが、お嬢ちゃんに怖い思いをさせちまったみてえで。
I did it for you, but I'm sorry it was a bad
栄
experience.
一郎にめちゃくちゃ怒られたぜ。
Ichiro yelled at me big time. Oh, that. Please don't worry about it. It wasn't your fault.
いや、
But the bright side was that after the incident, I was able to talk to Professor Asagi again.
じゃあ、 悩みは解決したってわけだな。
Then everything's resolved. We're pretty much back to square one.
なんだ。またこじれてんのか。
What happened? Another fight? I hesitated to tell Hanai, but I couldn't keep it any longer. Besides, Mr. Hanai could give me some advice. I decided to take the plunge and tell him everything. And then he told me now that he's writing, there won't be much work for me. He won't let me do anything. Actually, I haven't had anything to do in a while, but I'm still getting paid as an assistant, so I want to do something to earn it. I also need to apologize for taking my anger out on him. I want to help Professor Asagi, but there's hardly anything I can do. It's embarrassing.
そうだな。できること。
What you can do, huh? I don't know what an assistant should do at this point. Up until now, I was helping out at the audition camp.
俺も詳しいことはわからんけど。
I don't really know either,
家
but
族がいる人は別として、独り身の作家だと身の回りの世話をお願いしたりって聞いたことが。
I've heard that single authors sometimes ask for help with domestic stuff. Really? Yeah.
ああ、Eiichirouも一人暮らしだったな。
And Ichido lives
そうい
alone
や前
too.
にあいつに執筆中の食事とかどうしてんのか聞いたことあるんだけどよ。結構適当っぽかったぞ。
I asked him what he was doing about food when he writes, and he seems like a real slipshod about it. Huh?
執筆に入るとこもって集中することが多くなるからな。
Once he starts writing, he often locks himself inside to concentrate. He doesn't go outside, doesn't do housework either.
食わねえで書き続けるってこともあるみてえだ。
Worst case scenario, he'll write a long time without eating. What? He'll get sick if he does that for too long.
家政婦雇ってるわけじゃねえし。
I agree.
今頃
He doesn't have a maid or anything. Right now, he could be. I imagine Professor Asagi collapsed on the ground and couldn't stay still. Mr. Hanai, I need a favor.
おう
Yeah, what's up? I need your phone number and your address. Mr. Hanai gave me Professor Asagi's address. After that, I went straight home. While I was working on creating something, I sent Professor Asagi a message on Ring, but he didn't answer. I imagined him kneeled over again, but I tried to ignore it while I kept working. After a while, Professor Asagi responded. I'm sorry I didn't notice because I was writing. I'm planning to take a break soon. His message made me feel a little better, but I can't believe I actually came.
はい、
Hello? Hi, it's Uda.
上田さん。
Uda? I'm sorry for dropping by without notice. Is it okay? Can you open the door?
それはもちろん。
Sure,
ちょっと
give me
待ってくれ。
give me a second. The door opened. Professor Asagi was standing on the other side. We hadn't seen each other in a week. It felt like a distant memory now. Tears wet my eyes and I blink rapidly to hold them back. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but he seems thinner and
上田さ
exhausted.
ん、どうしてここに？それに、その荷物は？
Miss Uda, what brings you here? What's the bag for? I'm here as your assistant. Huh? May I come in? I'll be quick.
はい、どうぞ。
Sure. Come on in. Once he let me inside, I took some containers out of the plastic grocery bag, and then I lined them up on the table.
これは？
What's this? I heard from Mr. Hanai that you don't eat when you're writing, so I made you a few things worth of eating. Each container held a different dish. I wrote directions for him on the lids. Things like microwave for 1 minute and eat this if you have no appetite. I thought it'd help him even if he was alone the whole time. I practically forced Mr. Hanai to tell me your address, so please don't blame him. Don't forget to put these in the fridge. You can let me know when you're done and I'll come and get the containers, so have a good night.
もう帰るのかい？
You're leaving already? I don't want to bother you while you're
別に
working.
邪魔なんてことは。
You're not a bother. Professor Asagi.
はい。
Yeah, it's my job to assist you while you're writing. I know I can't help with the writing itself, but if there's anything else I can do, I will, so please don't hesitate to ask. I took Professor Asagi in my eyes and tried to convey my emotions. Also, I'm sorry for being rude the other day.
ありがとう。カップラーメンや冷凍食品でしのいでたから助かるよ。
Thanks. I was living on instant noodle and frozen meals. What's wrong with instant noodles? So I really appreciate it. Professor Asagi no longer looked tense like he had before. He had a faint smile. I'm glad I could help. I bowed and left Professor Asagi's room. House? Apartment? Room? Was that okay? I didn't weird him out, did I? I left Professor Asagi's apartment as fast as I could. This didn't ease all my worries, but I decided to trust in the smile he gave me. A couple weeks later, I wrapped up location scouting with Makino. I've been determined to help Professor Asagi in some way, so I was happy that my food had came in handy that day. Once the new semester started, every 3 or 4 days, I would take him more food. After that first visit to his apartment, he told me I could drop by anytime. He doesn't look as pale as the other days, so I think he's eating better now. I still didn't get much time to talk to him, but seeing the empty containers made me happy. Another good thing came from it as well. Normally he just asked about my scripts, so I'd rarely seen him working on his own stuff. Since he worked from home, I got to see him sitting at his computer a few times. When he's working or even just looking through reference materials, he looks so serious. He looks amazing. I'm lucky I get to see him like this. I thought about my good fortune as I prepared the food containers I was going to take today. I shouldn't be so giddy. This is work after all. I just wish I could be more help. I arrived at his apartment as usual and put the food in the fridge. I retrieved the empty containers and then stopped to say goodbye before I left. Unlike usual, he wasn't writing. No, that's not it. He would type a few things, then delete them. He did that a few times. Maybe this would work better, but it contradicts what comes later. He looks to be stuck on something. Maybe this is where an assistant can help. Still, I can only do housework or gather reference materials. He's profesh, you see, so let's talk. Whenever I get stuck, I change the scenery. A change of scenery always helps. He's been holed up in here the whole time, so going outside might give him some new ideas. Professor Asagi, sorry to intrude, but good work today. I put your food in the fridge. It should last you 3 days, but let me know if you need more. Thank you, you're a big help. Also, what is it? If you're okay with it, how about we go somewhere for a change of pace? Change of pace? Well, I'm worried that being cooped up inside too long might hinder your progress. Plus, sunlight is good for your health. It generates vitamin D, which helps absorb calcium. It increases happy hormones too. Also, so it's nothing but beneficial. Yeah, at least it's better than shutting yourself up in here. Oh, but I know that's part of your work, so only if you want to. I suppose some fresh air would do me some good. I was worried he would refuse, so I was genuinely happy when he liked the idea. Are you ready to go then? He always just dressed and ready to go outside. I headed outside before he could change his mind. Oh no, I invited him to go out, but I didn't think about what to do. Maybe wandering around town or going to the park. But some authors dislike noisy places. As I thought of ideas, I noticed Professor Asagi was yawning. Phew. It's been a while. You're right about going outside. Sitting at the computer all day, I lose track of the time and even the days of the week. I also stopped caring about my appearance. Huh? But you always look nice, Professor Asagi. Because you come over, I now take showers. I hear you. I can't look shabby in front of my student. Now that you mention it, I'd like to see that. I don't recommend it. You'll be weirded out. Is that Is it that bad?
君が来てくれるようになってから、ちゃんと決まった時間に食事をするようになったからね。
Ever since you started bringing food, I've at least been eating at regular
いつもより
intervals.
随分まともな生活を送っていると思う。
I'm much more orderly now. If there's anything else I can do to help, please tell me. I'll do my best. Like maybe cleaning or laundry.
料理だけでも随分助けてもらってるよ。それにしても、上田さんは料理が上手なんだね。
Your cooking's already a huge help. Speaking of, you're a good cook, Masuda. I've been cooking since I was in elementary
どれも美
school.
味しかったけど、肉じゃがは絶品だった。
Everything tastes great, but my favorite is the beef stew and potatoes. I'm glad my grandmother taught me, so I'm good with
君は
stews.
将来、いいお嫁さんに。と、こんなこと言うのは失礼だね。
I think you'll make a great wife someday. Oh, sorry, that's rude to say.
私はあそこまでちゃんとしたものを作れないから、つい。
There's no way I could make something as tasty as that, so it slipped out. Don't worry. A wife? I've never even thought about it. I haven't even fallen in love yet. Marriage is the last
栄
thing
養
on my
面も
mind.
考えてくれているんだろう。本当に感謝しているんだ。
I'm sure you think about what's nutritious as well. I'm very thankful for that you do. Huh? Thank you.
しばらくは脚本のチェックもしてあげられないし。
For the time being, I'm not able to look over your
代わりと言っ
scripts.
てはなんだが、何かしてほしいことはあるかい？
In exchange, is there something else I can do for you? Something you can do? Right. When I was about to tell him not to worry about it, something came to mind. I might not have another opportunity, and as long as it doesn't inconvenience him, my eyes widened around, and I saw just the thing. Professor Asagi, have you ever been to an arcade?
ゲームセンターいや、ゲームより本を読んでいたから無縁だったな。家にゲーム機もなかったし。
Guess you're not my type, Eiichirou. An arcade? No, I read more than I game. I don't have a console at home either. Really? I went a few times in high school. I mostly watched people play those crane games.
行ってみるかい？
Would you like to go? I mostly watch people. Oh my god, I love watching people play crane games. Dude. Alright, yes. She really is me.
ドラマなんかの映像では何度も見ているが、実際はすごい音だね。
I've seen arcades on TV, but it's quite loud in here. Yeah, they reduced the volume so that the characters on screen can be heard. We went inside the arcade and saw the line of crane games. They have stuffed animals and even candy and ice cream. There are so many kinds of prizes.
携帯もアームで掴むものだけじゃないみたいだね。
And it's not always just a crane grabbing the prize. True. Oh. As we walked along, we saw a large dog plushie hanging from like it was some kind of sacrifice. Oh, poor
ぬいぐる
thing.
みとつながっているボールの上のリング。
There's a ring over the ball connected to this stuffed
Areo.
animal.
アームの爪を使ってずらして落とすのか。
I guess you just use the claw to push it off. Seems more difficult than just grabbing it. The rubber part was tangled on the plushie, but it looked so sad it made me want to help it. May I try once? I was usually frugal about everything, so I was hesitant to spend money and have it go to waste. But the dog looked like he was begging for help, and sympathy got the better of me.
こればかりは助言できないしな。ここで見守らせてもらうよ。
I guess I can't help you with this. I'll watch from here. Okay. It's 100 yen per play. Oh, but you get a bonus if you put in 500 yen. Nah, just one for me. Here goes. I put in 100 yen and tried to hitch the claw onto the ring, but it was only glanced it. It only grazed it. The claw opened weirdly, so it didn't go where I was aiming. Just one more. I put in another 100 yen and implemented what I had learned from the previous try. The ring wiggled a bit, but that was it.
上田さん、
Uda, I understand now how some people get addicted to these crane games. I hated to admit it, but I was awful at it. It was painfully obvious. I was fighting a losing battle and should retreat now. Sorry about that. Shall we go then? I bid farewell to the imprisoned dog and turned to walk away. Only to pause when I heard someone insert money into the machine behind me. Asagi?
いや、なんだか見てたらやってみたくなって。 500円入れたら1回多くできるらしいし。
Watching you made me want to try too. It says you get a bonus try for 500, so I went with that. But you've never played,
一
right?
応以前に資料としてそういう動画は見ていたことがあるんだ。
I've seen footage of it in the past for
それに
reference.
ビギナーズラックで取れたりするんじゃないかと。
Perhaps there is such a thing as beginner's luck. Right. It didn't work out for me, but maybe it will for you. Professor Asagi had written numerous great work, so maybe the crane game gods would smile on him. I watched to see how things would unfold. $20 later. Long story short, reality was cruel.
ちょっとずつ動いてはいるのに。
It only moved a little bit. Professor Asagi, you've already spent 3,000 yen. Maybe it's time to call it quits? Wait, 3,000? Oh man, that's more than I suggested. The ring moved, but then went right back before I knew it. Professor Asagi was getting fired up. We'd come out for a change of pace, but now I was wondering if we were getting our priorities mixed up. As his assistant, I should stop him here. Just as I was thinking that, Professor Asagi walked away from the crane game.
上田さん、ちょっと休憩するから代わりにどうぞ。
I'm taking a break. Go ahead and take my place. Wait, what?
お金を入れてしまったから放置しておくわけにもいかなくて頼むよ。
I already put money in, so I can't leave it there. Will you please? Okay then. While I was watching him play, I got a better idea of where to aim. Still, watching and doing were completely different.
惜しい。
You were so close. I don't think I can do it, Professor Asagi. You paid for it, so maybe you should
待っ
finish.
て、そのまま。
Stay right there. I know. Asima-san, and then they come over and then they adjust it. I was about to give him the control when he leaned in. Dang.
君がやってるのを後ろで見ていて気づいたんだ。
I noticed something while I watched you play from behind.
今の、そう、この位置。ここでアームを止めると。
It's yes, this position. If you stop the claw right here, we move the ring little by little until finally the claw got it. It wobbled. And then
やった!落ちた!
it fell. It was rare for him to yell, much less so innocently. I wanted to turn around and look at him, but his hand. And he's so close.
長い道のりだった。でもその分、達成感がすごいな。
The battle was hard fought, but this victory was the grips. Ugh. But the victory was that much greater. Professor? He moved away from me. His head hung low.
年がいもなく、すまない。
I'm sorry, it was immature of me. I completely understand how you feel.
とりあえず取れてよかった。はい。
I'm glad we got it. Here you go. But you're the one that won
Yeah.
it.
これは君のために取ったんだ。お世話になっているお礼ということで。
Got it as a thank you for your help. Thank you very much, as long as you don't mind. Professor Asagi handed me the large, fluffy dog. How big is it? I had to hug it just to hold it. It's pretty big. Kind of
多
embarrassing.
分、店員に言えば袋がもらえるはず。
I'm sure you can ask one of the employees for a bag. Why? Carry your baby. Just as we were talking about, an employee happened to approach us.
彼氏さんに撮ってもらったんですね。おめでとうございます。
Nice of your boyfriend to win that for you. Congratulations, boyfriend.
実はちょっと前から見てたんですけど、ラブラブでしたね。
I only saw you a little bit earlier, but you two seem very close. That's how we look. This is so embarrassing. Feeling uncomfortable, I buried my face into the stuffed animal's plush neck.
あ、袋をもらえますか?
Ah, maybe have a bag for
あ、は
this.
い、どうぞ。他にも可愛いのいっぱいあるので、楽しんでいってくださいね。
There you go. We have other cute things too, so enjoy your time. Oh man.
上田さん、この袋使って。
Take the bag. Thank you. I put the stuffed animal in the bag, but it was more interested in his reaction. He completely ignored it, but I wonder what he thought about it. I kept glancing at him. He noticed and smiled wearily.
よりによって恋人と間違われるなんて。 災難だったね。
Of all the people, I'm sure you hate to be mistaken as my lover. Hate?
同年代ならともかく、私みたいなおじさんとじゃ。
Listen, Mr. Hanai is even older than you, and I'd be fine with him as an interest in this game. It's one thing if it's someone from your age group, but I'm much older. That's not true. You're wonderful.
気を使わせてしまったね。
Sorry for making you worry. Professor Asagi, you don't realize how attractive you are.
魅力って。
Attractive? You're so caring, and your lectures are always so meticulous. You're very mature. But earlier, you seemed so childlike and innocent.
さっきのは我ながら大人げなかったと思う。
I realized I was acting a bit mature back there. Don't say it like that. I started it, but you tried your hardest too. You're a kind
もう
person.
そのくらいで。そんなに手放しで褒めてくれるのは上田さんくらいだ。
Perhaps that's enough. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Perhaps that's enough. You're the only one who compliments me without reserve, Miss Uda. Is he being bashful? I couldn't take my eyes off of this new side of him I'd never seen before. Looking back, I don't think I've ever gone out with him like this. Could this be... Is this a date? He's worried about the age difference, but the employee mistook us for a couple earlier, so it's not out of the question. That makes me a bit happy.
上田さん、顔が赤いけど、どうかしたのかい？
Suda, your face is red. Is something wrong? No, not at all. So what would you like to do now? How about we play that drum game
だ
over
いぶ体
there?
力が落ちてそうだから、現役女子大生に勝てるかは怪しいな。
You were in your 30s. Please don't make me feel terrible. My energy level isn't what it used to be, so I'm not sure I can keep up with a college student. I don't think this uses much energy as long as you're
案外
strong.
いい勝負になったりしてね。
It might be a close
Something
battle then. Let's give it a shot. Yeah. We were both novices, but we enjoyed our time at the arcade.
体を動かすなんて久しぶりだったけど、なかなか楽しめたよ。
I haven't done any physical activities in a while, but it was quite fun. You were unsure if you could win before we started, but you did really great.
案外どうにかなったね。
It seemed to work out all right. We both gotten so caught up in the game, we completely forgot that we were teacher and student. The sun is starting to set. Oh, I know. Professor Asagi, there's one more place I'd like to go. Will you come with
今日は
me?
君に任せるよ。
I'm following your lead today. Thank you. Where am I taking him? How did I get into this private bar that seen us from?
どこかと思ったらバーとは。君が来たがるなんてちょっと意外だったよ。
I was wondering where you want to go, but a bar, I wouldn't have expected that. I was thinking of using one as a setting in a script. I wanted to come for reference, but bars aren't very welcoming. Some refuse first-time customers or are members only. This one specifically is members only. I don't think I could go
友達と
alone.
来ればいいじゃないか。大学の、いや、ほら、上久保くんとか。
Well, what about with a friend, someone from college, or what about Mr. Kami Kubo? Well, as you may have already known, I don't have any friends at school, and Kazuma isn't really the type to go to bars, don't you think?
ま、
Oh.
確かに。
I suppose that's true. That's why I'm glad you agreed to come with me. Oh, you ordered a brandy. How does that
美味しい
taste?
かどうかは好みによるからね。
Mm.
まだ口をつけてないから、試しに一口飲んでみるかい？
This is a matter of preference. I haven't touched it yet, so would you like to try?
得意
Really?
不得意はあると思うけれど、味を知っておいて損はないんじゃないかな。
People have their favorites, but it doesn't hurt to see what it tastes like. Thank you. Okay then. I took the glass from Professor Asagi and gingerly took a sip.
年齢を
Mysterious.
重ねるにつれて味覚が変わるから、そのうち美味しいと感じるようになるかもしれないよ。
Your taste can change with age, so you may grow to like it eventually. Is that how it works? I still don't get it. But it does seem like a mature drink. I'm glad I asked him to come with me. He looks so distinguished when he drinks. Watching Professor Asagi tip his glass back made me realize something. Since I drank it before him, I know, girl, it's an indirect kiss. I was gonna say that. Professor Asagi doesn't seem to mind though, so maybe I'm just being overly sensitive. I try to feign calmness as I sip my Kahlua milk, a sweet cocktail made with coffee liqueur and milk. Sounds weird.
それにしても、教え子と酒を飲むっていうのはいいものだな。
Still, it's nice to be able to drink with my student. I had no idea something like this would happen. It makes me really happy.
君は本当にいい子だね。
You really are a good girl. He reached out to pat me on the head, and I almost spilled my glass. Professor
い
Asagi.
い子、いい子。
Good girl, good girl. Are you so the drunk? As he patted my head, he smiled wider than I'd ever seen before. It was fine when Mr. Hanai touched me, but but I was so much more nervous with Professor Asagi than I noticed. Are you drunk?
上田さん、面白いこと言うな。俺は先生なんだから。
You say the funniest things, Miss Uda. Takes more than this to get me drunk. He's obviously drunk. He sounds so much bolder too. I can't believe it.
酒もこのところ控えてたから、ちょっとふわふわするかもしれない。
Been refraining from drinking for a while, so I feel a little buzzed, I think, maybe. That's what they call being drunk, Professor
大
Asagi.
丈夫。ふわふわするのはきっと楽しかったからだよ。
It's fine. I'm buzzed because I'm having fun. Huh?
早く大人になりたくて、子供らしいことをあまりしてこなかったからさ。
I wanted to grow up fast, so I didn't really have a
学生時
childhood.
代は花井さんにも、もうちょっとハメ外せよって言われていたんだけど。
Back when I was still in school, people told me to lighten up
それ
more.
どころじゃなくて。けど今日は、久々に童心に帰れた気がするよ。
That was the last thing on my mind, but I think I got back some of my childhood today. Professor Asagi, this
上田
is
さんも娯楽
inappropriate.
に走ることなく、いつも真面目で。けど、見ていてちょっと心配になる時がある。
Miss Uda, you're also serious about your studies and don't indulge in entertainment, but that makes me worry about you sometimes.
今日みたいな気晴らしが必要なのは、君の方じゃないのかなって。
Sometimes I think you're the one who needs time off like today. I didn't know that he thought of me like that. I felt a little guilty for making him worry, but I was also happy that he did. Those two emotions swirled around in my
Yoshi.
head.
この際だ。今日くらいはハメを外そう。
All right, let's just go out today. It's already
今か
nighttime.
らでもできることはあるよ。まず、上田さんは俺を名前で呼ぶこと。
There's still plenty of things we can do. For starters, call me by my name. Huh?
先生って言われると、ハメを外しにくいから。はい、呼んでみて。
You calling me professor makes it difficult to have fun. Go on, give it a try. Okay, Mr.
おう、
Eiichirou.
よくできました。いい子、いい子。
Good girl, well done. He patted me on the head, which flustered me. Professor Asagi gets really friendly when he's drunk. It's surprising, but maybe this would be a good time to ask him why things got awkward at camp. Professor?
一郎でしょ。
Eiichirou. Eiichirou.
はい。
Yes. At camp, there was a time when you refused to talk to me. I wanted to ask why.
話してない？話してるよ。
I refused to talk to you, but we're talking now. Yes, we're talking now, but during the audition camp, I felt like things were a bit strained between us.
あれはちょっと気まずくて。
I was just feeling a little awkward. Why?
質問に答えたから、次は俺の番。君にとって俺はどんな存在？
Dang, Ichiro does not play around. No wonder his story's so short. All right, you asked your question, so now it's my turn. What am I to you? You're my teacher, and I respect
そう
you.
いうのじゃなくて、もっと他にさ。
It's not what I'm
何か
asking.
感じない？
Do you feel anything else towards me? Anything else? Is he asking if I see him as someone I consider dating? I'm not sure.
そうか。正直、俺もよくわからなくなった。
Honestly, I'm not sure anymore either. Oh,
あまり遅くなると良くないし。
it's getting late.
So-
Let's head home. Right. I never found out what Professor Asagi was getting at, or what he meant when he said he wasn't sure anymore. I thought we'd gotten closer again, but now I was more confused than ever.
といい？
Uda, do you have a minute? After our lecture ended, a few girls stopped me outside the classroom. Sure. She's in the same department as me, but I've never talked to her before. I felt tense, unsure of what was going on, but luckily one of them spoke first.
あのさ、上田さんってやけに浅木先生と親しいよね。
Hey, Uda, you seem pretty close to Professor
夏
Asagi.
休みにも一緒にいるとこ見かけた子もいるんだけど。
Some of us even saw you with him over vacation. Oh, I work as Professor Asagi's assistant.
助手？どうして上田さんが助手に選ばれたの？
His assistant? How'd you get that job?
ちょっ
Oh,
とおかしくない？先生の講義なら私たちだって取ってるのに。
we're in Professor Asagi's
ま
class
さか
too.
先生に取り入ったんじゃないの？
I bet you sweet talked him into giving you that sweet talk.
やばい。
That's shameless. That's not it. I did nothing of the sort.
浅木先生の講義、冬まで月1になっちゃうんだよね。本業が忙しくなるからって聞いたけど。
Sure. Professor Asagi's lectures are only once per month until winter. I heard it's because he's so busy with his other job. He
で
is.
も助手ってことは、上田さんは休校してる間も先生に会えるってことでしょ？
As his assistant, you meet up with him between lectures, right? Depends on what he
でも
needs.
私たちよりは絶対会えるじゃん。つか夏休み一緒だったとかずるい。
But you get to see him more than us. And you saw him during summer break. It's not fair.
特別扱いされてるとか思っ
Do
て
you
んじゃ
think
ない
you're
の？
special or something?
ああ、思ってそう。ほんと調子に乗ってるよね。
I'm sure she does. Someone really should put her in her place. Why? I wanted to deny what they were saying. I was just going to, but then I remembered what Professor Sagi did. I never really considered it, but maybe I did think I was special somehow. Sorry, but I have to get to my next lecture. I felt really uncomfortable, so I got out of there as fast as I could. Professor Saki treated all his students the same. He didn't give special treatment. I only became his assistant because he supported my dreams to be a screenwriter. Perhaps they're right. Professor Asagi is too nice, so maybe I let it get to my head. Maybe I did want special treatment. The next day went Professor Asagi's special monthly lecture, but I was reluctant to go. I couldn't just skip out on something so
浅木
rare.
先生、今月授業これだけなんて悲しいです。
Asagi, I'm sad. That's all the lectures we get this month. Right after the lecture ended, the girls from yesterday
すぐ
surrounded the
帰らない
professor.
ならみんなでお昼食べませんか？
Why don't you have lunch with us to make up for
それ
it?
いいね。浅木先生の講義、すっごく楽しみにしてたのに、休校とか悲しすぎて。
That's a great idea. We were all looking forward to your lectures, so we were devastated to hear that most of them were
迷惑をか
canceled.
けてすまないね。
I apologize
仕
for
事
that.
じゃ仕方ないですよ。お昼一緒してくれたら悲しいの我慢します。
If you have work, then I guess we understand. But if you have lunch with us, it'll help us be less sad.
せっかくだから他にも都合のつく子がいたら一緒に食べようか。
In that case, we should see if any of the others can go to lunch too.
やったー！
Yay! Lunch with Professor Asagi. Truthfully, I was a bit envious, but if I went, they'd just nag me like yesterday. I'm used to being alone anyways. So close. Right after I agreed to go to lunch with my students, I looked for Masuda. She was just here.
早く行きましょう。
Let's go, Professor Asagi.
あ、
Yeah, okay. I was worried about her, but my other students were pulling me by the arm to the cafeteria. Once we arrived, we found a table where we could all sit together. We talked about the recent events, new movies, and TV shows, and so on. I discovered a number of new and interesting things from them. While we were talking, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Miss Uda enter the lunch
上田さん、
box.
こっちで一緒にどうだい？
Miss Uda, would you like to eat with us? One corner of my lip rose in expectation. She bowed, then left the cafeteria. I wonder what she was about to say. Something seemed off, and that worried me. After we finished lunch, I was about to leave when one of the students glanced at me.
先生って 上田さんと仲いいですよね。
Professor Asagi, you seem awfully close to Uda. What do you
助
mean?
手にしてたりしますし、夏休みも一緒だったんですよね。
She's your assistant and everything, so you were together all summer break,
Ah.
right?
今関わっている仕事の手伝いをしてもらっているんだ。
Yes, she's currently helping me with my other job.
先生がどうして上田さんを助手にしたかはわからないですけど、気をつけた方がいいですよ。
I don't know how she came to be your assistant, but you should be
気を
careful.
つける
Careful of what?
そうそう。上田さんって私たちのこと嫌いみたいで、ものすごく冷たいんですよね。
She acts so cold to us. It's like she
声
hates
かけて
us.
も無視するし、露骨に避けられてる感じで。
She ignores us when we invite her out, and she's obviously avoiding us.
無視
She ignores
そう
you.
なんです。前からされてて。
She's been doing it
もし
for a
かしたら
while.
先生の前ではいい顔をしてるかもですけど、
She might be nice in front of you, but in front of
私
us,
たちのことを見下してるっていうか、今回だって先生に選ばれたのは私
she
だ
looks
から。
down on us. Do you know she actually brags about how you chose her
本
over
当に
us?
そんなこと彼女は言わないんじゃないかな。
I highly doubt she'd say
そ
something
れ
like
に
that.
見下しているなんてことはないと思うよ。
And I don't think she looks down on you either.
先生、上田さんのことは信じて、私たちのことは信じてくれないん
You'll
です
trust her, but
か？
not us?
そういうわけではないよ。
It's not what I
ただ
said.
そういった言動は彼女らしくないと思っただけだ。
I only meant what you said doesn't sound like her at all.
先生、上田さんの肩を持ちすぎですよ。男が相手だと態度を変えるのなんてよく
You
ある
defend her
話。
too much. Does she always act differently around men? That's not true. I saw Miss Uda standing there and gasped.
何？
You scared me. You're so frightening when you yell. I'm his assistant, but I've never bragged like that or looked down on
けど
you.
さ、壁は作ってるよね。
Then why do you always push us
そうそう。
away?
うちらだって1年の頃はいろいろ声かけたり、遊びに誘ったりしたのに。
We invited you out all the
全
time
然乗ってこなかった
freshman senior year. You never
いつも
came.
都合が悪いって断ってばかりでさ。どうせ私たちのこと嫌いなんでしょ？
You always turn us down with some excuse about the timing or something, but we know it's just because you hate us. It seems like these girls have been wanting to say that for a while now. Miss Uda also realized that and was looking around nervously. Miss Uda? I put my hand on her shoulder and she looked up at me as I asked
何
for
も
help.
伝えず分かってもらおうとするのは無理がある。
Others will never understand if you
抵
don't say
抗がある
anything.
かもしれないけれど、時には自分の弱さを吐き出すことも大事だ。
I know you struggle with that, but it's important to be
壁
vulnerable
を作っ
too.
ていたのは過去のこと。今の君なら大丈夫。
Pushing others away, that's all in the past. I'm sure you'll be fine now. Okay. Her eyes, which had looked uncertain, regained their usual strength. I'm sure she was just scared. I understood how she feels. I used to be like that too. I'm in a flashback and a flashback. During junior high and high school, all the kids who knew about my family would look at me with pity. When they went home, they'd tell their parents about me, and their parents would pity me too and tell their kids not to bully me. All that pity kept piling up, creating layers upon layers of thick bricks, building a wall that separated me from others and continued to grow and rise. I hated their pity, and I avoided talking about my family, but the wall may have protected me, but it hurt the people around me. When I was a child, I hated the labels they gave me. Out of fear, I started making barriers to push others away. But that was exactly why I had to tear them down brick by brick on my with my own hands. All right. All right, let's do this. We're still only in episode 3. What the heck? Oh no, wait, that's selection. Okay. Interesting. Mission. Break the walls between you and the students. They're at least silhouettes. Like, they don't do that for anybody else. I need to clear up this misunderstanding. To do that, I need to explain what's going on. I live
それ
alone.
なら私だってそうよ。
Me
大
too.
学生なんだから珍しく
A
ない
lot
で
of
し
college
ょ？
students do, right? I have to be honest here. I'm all
何
alone.
言ってんの？だから私も。
I said I was too. No, I mean I have no family. My parents died when I was young, and I don't have any siblings.
そんなの初耳なんだけど。
Never mentioned that before. I was afraid that if I said something, everyone would walk on eggshells around me and think I was pathetic. That's how it was for me in junior high and high school. I didn't have any friends. I'm sorry I didn't explain earlier.
そういう事情なら仕方ないかもだけどさ。それと私らの誘いを断るのって関
I
係な
understand,
く
but what does
な
that have to do with you rejecting our invitations? Well, I had to use all my savings for tuition, and I work multiple part-time jobs to cover my living expenses. So the reason I turned you down is I just didn't have the time to go with you. I was honestly happy when you invited me. I did want to go.
そうならそう言いなさいよ。事情があるなら私たちだって。
Why didn't you say something? We would have understood, you know?
そういうことならって納得したし。
We would have been more considerate.
でもさ、上田さんって普段も人を寄せつけないっていうか、話そうとしてもすぐ切り上げたりするよね。
That's because I'm an introvert. All right. You have this way about you that pushes other people's away. When we talk to you, you always cut it short and leave.
それ思った。会話が続かないんだよね。
Always. The conversations never go anywhere. Well, I never joined the other girls because I didn't know any of the topics they discussed. It's embarrassing, but I have to be honest. I couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep up with all of
まあ
that.
上田さんからしたら、うちらってうるさい
I guess you were just nosy. That's not what I meant. I don't know anything about what's trending, so I had no idea what you were talking
ああ
about.
そういう意味か。
That's what you meant. Ah, shoot, I broke. Did I get through to them?
まあ、う
Well,
ん、
yeah.
言いたいことは分かったと思う。
I guess we get what you've been trying to say.
みんな、
My
いいかな
bad. Are you okay now? Professor Asagi. No, I messed up the last question. Thought she had to sound sincere, and so I picked the one I thought sounded sincere, but it wasn't sincere.
みんなに聞いてほしいのだけど。
That's fine. We're gonna get there. Because I'm antisocial, just sounds like an excuse. It's hard for me to just talk, so that's why. Oh, they seem a bit weirded out by that.
私たちと話したくなかったわけじゃないんだ。
So then it's not that you didn't want to talk to us? Not at all. I was working day and night, so I was embarrassed that I didn't know anything about what's popular right now.
そういうことなら早く言ってよ。
Why just tell us that earlier? They understood. Sorry. I think I was able to explain everything. I hope they can understand.
なんか、
You're a bit.
さ
Yeah.
っきから
Keep apologizing. Uh-oh.
みんな、いいか
Are
な
we all good? Professor Asagi.
みんなに聞いてほしいのだけれど、
I want everyone to know this.
私は一人の人間として彼女を敬愛しているし、尊敬している。
I respect Masuda and hold her in the
若
highest
いうちか
regard.
ら勉強、アルバイト、家事をこなし、将来の夢も諦めず、前を見て進んでいる。
She studies hard, works hard, cleans, and cooks. Most importantly, she's always working towards her
もちろん
dream.
君たちだって未来に向かって勉強を頑張っているのを私は見ているつもりだ。
Of course, you all study hard and you're working towards your
彼女
goals
も
too.
君たちも
I'm proud of all my students. Smiling sincerely, Professor Asagi looked at each of them in turn. It's true, everyone knows how serious Professor Asagi is with his students. That was why everyone liked him and put so much effort into their studies.
せっかくこうして知り合ったのに、すれ違いから仲違いしてしまうのはもったいないよ。
Since we all know each other, it's a shame to let such a small misunderstanding keep us from getting along with
同
one
じ
another.
文学部なんだ。共通の話題は話していけばたくさん見つかるんじゃないかな。
We're all in the literature department, so I'm sure you'll find some common ground if you keep being open with one another.
それははい先生の言う通りだと思います。
Yeah, you're right, Professor.
上田さんちょっとうちらも大人げなかった。
I was being
ごめん
immature.
ね
We're all
上田
sorry.
さん成績もいいし羨ましかったのかも。
Your grades are so good. I guess we were
ひどいこと言っ
jealous.
たりしてごめんなさ
Sorry
い。
for the terrible things we said. It's alright. You invited me out, but I kept saying no, and I couldn't even explain why, let alone chat with you after class. I feel like they should have established that when they first talked to her, because she was like, I've never talked to these people. Of course, you wouldn't have a good impression of me. I'm sorry.
同じ浅木先生の講義取ってるんだし先生つながりなら話も弾むんじゃない？
We're all in Professor Asagi's lectures, so we can talk about him together.
浅
Right.
木先生が脚本書いた眠れる海の話とか
We can talk about his screenplays like The Sleeping Sea. The Sleeping Sea, a serialized TV show with a script written by Eiichirou Asagi. I saw that. It's a
上田さん
masterpiece.
急にテンション上がったね。
Uda, you're so excited. It's one of my favorites, but I've never had any friends I could talk to
それ
about
じゃ
it.
鑑賞会でもする？で意見言い合ったりするの。
But let's have a movie night. We can discuss our thoughts. That sounds great. But my
上田
part-time
さん
job.
の都合に合わせるしなんなら昼休みに見るって手もあるよ。
We'll work around your schedule. We can even do it during lunch if you want. Are you sure you don't
上田
mind?
さんうちらの顔色見すぎそれぐらいで嫌がったりしないって。
You don't have to be cautious. We won't hate you just for that. Okay, thanks. I thought it was okay being alone. Plus, I had Kazuma. I thought I was just bad with people. But maybe I only thought that to cope with my loneliness. I've always wanted to have a group of girlfriends. If Professor Asagi hadn't encouraged me, I wouldn't have been able to tell them the truth. And it's not just this one time. He always gives me the courage to move forward. I turned to Professor Asagi to thank him. Oh. He was standing a little way away, a gentle smile on his face. Professor Asagi is such a wonderful person. I can see why he's so popular. I think I finally realized now I don't want to be just his assistant. I want to be special to him. Is it bad to feel that way? Thanks to Professor Asagi, I finally made friends with people in my department, even if it did take 3 years. We sat next to each other during lectures, and we even had the movie night we talked about. Considering how I was alone up until now, I'd made significant progress. It's not that I didn't have fun before, but having friends to talk to is nice. I guess I have more to look forward to now. Professor Asagi was taking a break, and I was making tea as I chatted away about how things were going.
それはよかった。これも君が勇気を出して自分を打ち明けたからだね。
That's good to hear. It's all because you had the courage to tell them how you felt. Professor Asagi was happy for me, almost as if it were personal for him. That warmed my heart and made me feel a little giddy. It wasn't just me, though. Professor Asagi, you're always there to encourage me when I'm struggling. You've helped me realize what's really important. I can't thank you enough. My life is so fulfilling now, and it's all thanks to you.
そう褒められたものではないよ。
I hardly do anything.
最初は確かに君の将来性と欠点を考えて助手になることを提案した。
It was in the beginning, I saw your potential and I saw that you needed to work on. So I suggested that you be my
少しでも
assistant.
力になりたいと思ったんだ。
I did want to
でも
help
今
you,
はそれだけじゃない。
but now it's not just that.
前に君に自分を憐れんでいるのかと言われたことがあったよね。
You once asked if I was pitying you, right? But that was just a reflex from my
あの時
past.
内心ドキリとしたよ。
Even so, it made my heart ache.
そんなつもりはなかったけれど、君に対して後ろめたい気持ちはあったからね。
I hadn't expected I would, but I felt guilty. Guilty about what? Does it have something to do with what that time you avoided me?
私はね、上田さん、
I lied to you,
嘘をついていたんだ。
Misuda. lied. My mentor was always so sincere, so he was just starting to worry me. Professor Asagi, you're not the type of person who'd lie for the sake of it. I'm sure you had a reason. Is it okay? If it's okay, can you tell me about it? Professor Asagi took a deep breath, then looked at me nervously.
以前、私の父は新作の構想を練りにヨーロッパへ単身渡っていたと話したけれど、
I told you that my father had gone to Europe alone to work on his next
本当は
project,
日本にいたんだ。
but he was actually in Japan.
それも君のお母さんと一緒に。
He was in Japan and he was with your mom. Huh? I wasn't expecting him to bring up my mother, so I was very confused with my mom. But what he said, that his father is my father? Is Professor Saki my
混乱す
brother?
るのも無理はない。本当はあの時、きちんと話すべきだった。
I understand your confusion. I should have told you then.
母のために、私は話すのをためらった。
I hesitated
こ
to
の
say
嘘
it.
で、母の平穏は保たれていたから。
For my mother's sake, the lie gave her peace. What do you
ちょっと
mean?
待っていてくれるかい？
Can you wait here a moment? Professor Asagi stood and went through the front door. He left. I wonder where he went. This is also Professor Agi's home, so not just his workplace. I'd only been in his office, but his room was further inside, so why did he need to go outside? I was worried, but I trusted Professor Asagi and waited soon after the door opened again. Professor Asagi returned, escorting an elderly woman inside.
まあ、栄一郎がこんなお嬢さんを連れてくるなんて。
I didn't expect Eiichirou to have such a lovely lady over.
誠司さんにも報告しなくちゃ。ねえ、栄一郎。誠司さんはいつ帰ってくるのかしら。
I need to tell Seiji. Eiichirou, when will Seiji be back? Seiji, does she mean the screenwriter Seiji Asagi? I thought he passed away a long time ago.
父さんはまだしばらく帰ってこないから、戻ったらちゃんと伝えるよ。
Dad won't be back for a while. I'll let you know when he is. Professor, what's
今日
going
は
on?
ね、母さんだけでも会ってもらおうと思って。
I wanted you to meet my mother. His mother? I hadn't expected to meet her, let alone like this. My whole body tensed.
浅木さゆりです。栄一郎がいつもお世話になっています。
I'm Sayori Asagi. Thank you so much for taking care of Eiichirou. Eiichirou's mother. She's a kind, gentle woman, but she seems fragile, sometimes hides behind her empty gaze. Not at all. Actually, he's always helping me.
そんな恐縮しないで。
You don't have to be so
それ
proper.
にしても、会ってほしい人がいるなんて言い出すものだから、驚いちゃったわ。
Same. I was also surprised. I was surprised when Ichiro said he wanted me to meet someone.
栄一郎もだいぶ大きくなったものね。
My boy's all grown up. Her expression was empty, and her words felt off for some reason. Something wasn't
なん
right.
だかあなた、少し私の知っている人と似てるわ。
You know, you resemble someone I know. I do.
どこで会ったのかしら。思い出せない。
I wonder where we've met. I just can't seem to remember.
母さん、無理させてごめん。寝室に戻ろう。
I'm sorry I disturbed you. Let's go back to your room.
そうね。
I suppose you're right. I'm sorry, this woman came from the outside. Professor Asagi helped his mother, who had some difficulty walking out the door. He said the lie gave his mother peace. Considering what I just saw, perhaps he had to lie. As I thought about why that could be, Professor Asagi came back.
また混乱させてしまったね。申し訳ない。
I'm sorry about that. I'm sure you're confused. It's
今
alright.
見てもらった通り、母は心を病んでいるんだ。
You could probably tell, but my mother has trouble remembering things these days. I noticed something was off, but I didn't know what or how serious it
父が
is.
亡くなったことは分かっているのだけれど、時々ああやって記憶があやふやになってね。
She knows my father passed away, but her memory gets fuzzy sometimes. Then the lie you
順
told.
を追って話すよ。
I'll start from the beginning. Professor Asagi went on to explain everything. He told me that his mother lived in another apartment in the building, which was actually his childhood home. He lived half there and half in this apartment he'd rented for work. Since the situation was a bit complicated, he just told people that he lived alone. Once Professor Asagi finished explaining, he faced me and took a deep breath.
母がどんどん弱っていったのは、私が5歳か6歳の頃だろうか。
When I was around 5 or 6 years old, my mother's condition
母
worsened.
が心を病んでからも、父は献身的に支えていた。
When her disease manifested, my father dedicated himself to taking care of
だけれ
her.
ど、父の仕事にまで影響が出ることを恐れた母は、重荷になりたくなくて、離婚を切り出したんだ。
My mother worried it would affect his work, so she didn't want to burden him, so she asked him for a
父は
divorce.
母を心配して離婚に応じようとはしなかった。結果、そのことで母は余計に自分を責めてしまってね。
My father was worried about her and refused, but that only made her blame herself even
病状
more.
が悪化していく姿を見て、父は別れることが母のためになると思って、
After her
離婚に
condition
合意
worsened,
したんだ。
my father thought that separating would be better for her, so he agreed to the
それが
divorce.
私が8歳の頃、私は母が心配で、
I was
母の
around
そばにいることに
8
した。
at the time. I was so worried about my mother that I wouldn't leave her
でも
side.
父は母を思って別れて一人になって、かなり弱っていたようだからね。
My father, even though he did it for her sake, was alone and
弟子
hurting.
だった君のお母さんは、そんな父を支えてくれていたんだ。
Back then, your mother was his student and she supported
そん
him.
な日々が続いていけば、いつしか愛情が芽生えても、何ら不思議はない。だからおそらく、
It's no surprise they fell in love with each other after a while. That's why I thought we likely had the same father. I was shocked by what I was hearing. I gained so much recently, my work, my studies, my social life, that finding my father had drifted into the background. But all too suddenly, I learned the truth. Everything became clear. I tried to accept it. I tried to think it through, but then Professor Asagi looked down.
私が父にあんなことを言わなければ、そうすれば、君から父を奪うことはなかったかもしれない。
Had I not said those things to my father, I wouldn't have taken your father away from you. Those
父が
things.
出て行ってから、私は子供ながらに母を元気づけようとした。
When my father left, I tried my best to cheer my mother up, but I was just a
だけど
child.
小学生の子供ができることなど、たかが知れている。
I couldn't do anything. I felt
記憶の混濁も
helpless.
この頃から顕著に
And
なっ
her
ていて
memory was getting worse
母
by
は
the
父
day.
がいないことを、長期の仕事で家を留守にしているからだと思い込むようになってい
She
た。
started to assume that my father wasn't there because he was on a business
私は
trip.
その思い込みを正すことができなかった。
I couldn't bear to correct
離
her.
婚してから2年が経った頃には、子供の自分だけで母を支えることは無理なのだと痛感したよ。
2 years after the divorce, I realized painfully how little I could do for my mother.
母の近況を報告するために時々会っていたから。
Occasionally, I would meet with my father and tell him how she was.
父の方は離婚した当初よりだいぶ精神的に落ち着いてきたように見えてね。
I'm sorry, your son was a child and he's staying with a woman who was having memory loss. This seems like the worst thing that could happen to this kid. He seemed much calmer than he had been after the
だから
divorce.
戻ってきてほしいと言ってしまったんだ。
I asked him to come back. That's understandable. You were young and backed into a corner. I'm sure you were doing whatever you could.
私が戻ってきてほしいと頼んだとき、父は困ったような泣きそうな顔をしていたんだ。
When I asked him that, he looked upset. He was close to
あの時
tears.
は どうしてそんな顔をするのかわからなかった。
At the time, I didn't understand why he reacted that way. I just want, well, if I can't date Hanai, maybe Hanai should just be her dad already.
愛情がなくなって別れたわけじゃないから、自分が頼んだら戻ってきてくれると、私はそう信じていたんだ。
They hadn't separated because they didn't love each other anymore, so I thought he'd say yes right
だ
away.
けど、今考えると、父の心の拠り所は、もう君のお母さん、
Looking back, I can see that my father had already fallen in love
それなのに、
again with your mother,
私は
Kana Uda Yarai. Please don't blame yourself. I know exactly how helpless you felt and how you wanted someone to rely
私は
on.
カナさんとも面識があった。彼女はよく私の心配をしてくれてね。
I met Miss Kana before. She was also worried
男
about
女の
me.
関係になっていたとは知らず、私はよく彼女に相談していたんだ。父が戻ってきてくれたらいいのにって。
No idea they were in a relationship, though. I often talked to her about how much I wanted my father to come back.
ある日、父は帰ってきた。
Then one day, my father
私は
did
そのこ
come
とをカ
back.
ナさんにも報告しようとしたけれど、その時はすでに彼女は父の元を去っていた。
When I went to go tell Kana about it, she was
父
already
が言う
gone.
には、母親が体を壊したから面倒を見なくてはいけなくなったと言われたらしい。
According to my father, her mother, felt ill and he had to go back and take care of her. That was a lie.
彼女はうちの事情を知っていた。だから、自ら身を引いたんだろう。
She knew our family situation, so she withdrew. That's why. It's just like her to do something like that.
君にとって自分の親に関わるとても大事な話だ。それなのに、私は
This was important to your search for your father. But for the sake of my own mother, I lied to you.
この嘘を突き通そうとも思ったが、私にはできなかった。
I thought I'd take it to the grave, but I
君
can't.
は親がいないのを悲観せず、前向きにカナさんと同じ夢を叶えようとしている。
Even though you had no parents, you didn't wallow in despair. You went after the same dream as
それ
Kana.
に私は君の言葉に救われたことがあってね。
You saved me. What do you
上
mean?
田さんは覚えていないかもしれない。オープンキャンパスで初めて会った時、
You may not remember, but during the open house when we first
父
met,
の息子だと分かって非難された話をしたら、君は言ってくれたんだ。
when I told you how I was criticized for being my father's
若
son,
く
you
して
said,
実力を証明した点も私は尊敬している。
I respect how you were able to prove yourself at such a young
そして
age.
先生が書かれたドラマや映画を何本も見ました。
I've seen so many of the shows and movies you've written. So I can confidently say you earned the awards on your own ability without a doubt.
そう。浅木誠二の息子だと知ってから、私個人の実力ではなく、親の七光だと揶揄されて、
Insulted me just for being Seiji Asagi's son, saying that I'd only won because
そう
of
じゃな
him.
い。自分の実力だと証明したくて、
I wanted to prove to them that it was due to my hard
特別
work.
講師の仕事も引き受けたばかりで、まだ勝手がつかめなかった時、君に言われた言葉で私は救われた。
At the time, I just accepted the job as visiting professor and didn't have my bearings yet. Your words really saved me. Does this make 100%?
ああ、この10年近くの歳月は無駄じゃなかったんだ。見てくれている人はいるんだと。
You made me stop. You made me realize that the past 10 years hadn't been a waste, that people were seeing my work for its
あ
own
の
merit.
時、私は君にエールを送ったが、勇気づけられたのは私の方だったんだ。
You cheered me on. That gave me the courage to become who I am now. But I was really only trying to sound mature, so I gushed to you. I respected him so much that I was thrilled just to meet him. I have no idea it meant that much to
まっす
him.
ぐな言葉だったからこそ、私の心に響いたんだ。
What you said to me, it made me
それまで
happy.
私の本業は、脚本家として書くことで、特別講師として学生に教える仕事は
Until
二の次だと
then,
思っていた。
screenwriting was my main job and teaching was entirely secondary.
君のように覚悟を持って来てくれる子がいるのなら、その熱意に真剣に応えなければいけない。
But if I have students like you who have so much conviction, then I need to teach with as much passion
そう
and
思い直して
sincerity.
からは、教え方や教材を工夫したり、できる限りのことをやってきた。
Ever since I decided that, I started working more on my material and teaching
学
methods.
生から学ぶことも多くて、それが脚本にも生きてくる。
I also learned a lot from my students, and that helped my
だ
writing
から
too.
こそ、君にも様々なことを経験してほしいと思った。
That's why I want you to have as many experiences as you can. You told me that opportunity would broaden my horizon. You gave me courage. Even though things are more complicated now, I don't have any regrets. Actually, thank you for telling me. It must have been hard for you to do so. I think I can accept things now and move on, but I never thought we'd be siblings. I mean, I thought I had no family left. This is really surprising. Everything is happening so fast. I don't believe
大
it.
丈夫。
I don't believe it. Are you alright? I don't want to make things more awkward for Professor Asagi. I'll be fine. Please don't worry. Please just keep treating me like
これま
normal.
で通りか。それはちょっと難しいかもしれない。
That may be difficult. I need you.
そう言ってもらえるのはありがたいが、
I'm glad you feel that way. Oh no, at this rate, my relationship with Professor Asagi will be over. I didn't want that. I didn't care what form of relationship we took. On impulse, I played the cards I was dealt. Then how about you treat me like your little
So,
sister?
できない。
I can't do that. I understand. I made the suggestion not expecting much from it, but the truth was I couldn't change how I felt about Professor Asagi. I'm sorry I was taking advantage of your kindness. I'll work independently from now on. Consider this my resignation. Thank you very much for everything. I'd been his assistant for a while now. Memories came rushing back as I bowed deeply. I'll definitely go see director Makino's movie when it comes out. Then, if you'll excuse me. This can't be real. I tried to hold it in until I got outside. As soon as I left, tears started streaming down my face. I found out what I wanted to know, but it doesn't make me happy. I'm more shocked about being related to Professor Asagi than I am about finally knowing who my father is. If he could have treated me the same as always, it would have been some consolation, but that wasn't possible. It's okay. I made friends this college, and what he taught me won't just disappear. I told myself that, but the tears refused to stop. By the time I got home, my head was pounding from everything that had happened. Maybe sleep will help. I legally took a bath and crawled into bed. When morning came, I knew I should get up, but I felt too sluggish. Maybe I should just skip the day. When I was debating what to do, my phone beeped. It was one of my new friends. Are you skipping today? Yeah, I'm not feeling well. You alone? Are you okay? I'll be fine. I just need sleep. Thank you. Thank you. After I replied, I closed my eyes. What time is it? I saw the setting sun outside the window and jumped out of bed. I slept so long. Actually, did I hear the doorbell? I hobbled to the front door. Yes,
浅見です。
it's me, Asagi. Professor? I cracked the door open and then realized my mistake. My hair is a mess, and I'm in my pajamas. I can't let him see me like this. I can't really come out right
そんな
now.
こと気に
I
しな
don't mind. No, but
上田さん、開けなさい。
Nasuda opened the door. Okay. I thought he was angry, so I opened the door cautiously. Professor Asagi was on the other side, carrying something large. His gaze softened when he saw my face.
よかった。てっきり顔を合わせたくなくて拒絶されたのかと。
Thank goodness. I thought you were rejecting me because you didn't want to see me. Two things can be true. That's not it. I was just embarrassed for you to see me like this.
特に問題はないようだけれど、
Oh, you look fine to me. I do not. I'm a
前に
mess.
話したけれど、私が気を抜いた姿の方がはるかにひどいから。
Don't
気
worry
にしな
about
い
it.
で。
I told you before, but when I'm relaxing, I look much worse.
お邪魔してもいいかな。
May I come in? Sure. Actually, I'm surprised to see you.
私の講義を受けていた彼女たちが君を案じて仕事場に電話をしてきてね。
The girls from my lecture were worried about you, so they
体
called me
調が悪い
office.
ということだったけれど、やっぱり昨日の件が原因なんじゃ。
Receptive. They said you weren't feeling well. I figured it was because of what happened yesterday. That's not. I tried to pull myself together, but I couldn't keep my voice from shaking. Professor Asagi looked at me with worry as he placed his stuff on the table.
何も食べてないんじゃないかと思って、一応いろいろ作ってきたんだ。
I assumed you hadn't eaten yet. So I made this
口
some
にでき
things.
そうなものがあったら食べてみて。
You need to eat to keep your strength. Go ahead and dig in. Professor Asagi took some food containers out of his bag, just like I'd done for him, and laid them on the table. Professor, did you make these? I didn't know you could cook.
簡単なものならね。とはいえ、普段はほとんどしないよ。料理上手で優秀な助手がいるからね。
Only simple stuffs. I really cook for myself. I do have a great assistant who makes delicious food, though.
慌てて作ったから簡単な調理のものばかりだけれど、時間があればもう少しマシなのも作れるよ。
These are just basic things I made in a hurry. If I had more time, I would have put more effort into it. It's perfect. Sorry for causing you trouble. I'm happy and thankful. Is it okay to eat some? Please. Among all the dishes in front of me, I chose the spinach and mushroom soup and took a sip. It's delicious. It was savory, but easy on the stomach. Once I finished, all the sadness in my stomach seemed to melt away.
上田さん、泣くほどまずかったかい？これでも味見はしたんだが。
Was it so bad it made you cry? I'm sorry. I did taste everything. It's not that. It's just your kindness soothed my soul. I said I'd work hard on my own, but look at me. I'm ashamed of
前
myself.
に、時には自分の弱さを吐き出すことも大事だと言っただろ。
Then I tell you once before, it's important to let your feelings out.
私は君のことを迷惑だと思ったことは今まで一度もないよ。
Not once have I thought of you as a burden. Please don't say that. You're the one who said it'd be difficult to treat me the same as
あ
before.
あ、それは難しい。
It is difficult. See? That means I can't talk to you like before. I can't learn from you. I can't be with you anymore.
私はそんなこと一言も言ってないよ。
It's not what I said at all. Well, it's practically the same as saying it directly.
違うんだ。難しいというのはそういう意味じゃなくて、
It wasn't that. I did say difficult, but I meant it in a different way. What did you
最初
mean?
は本当に先生として君の力になれたらと思っていたんだ。
Did you? In the beginning, I really wanted to help you as your teacher.
君が大学に入ってからずっと
Oh, in that beginning, my bad.
努力してる姿を目の当たりにしたり、年相応の笑顔を見たりするたびに、
After you started your job with me, I saw how hard you worked, and I saw that energetic smile of
少しず
yours.
つ心境が変わっていった。
Little by little, my
今の
feelings
私は君に
changed.
教え子以上の
Now
感情
you're
を抱
more
いて
than a student to me. More than a student.
軽蔑するのは当然だ。
I understand if you're disgusted
私も
with me.
教師と生徒を題材にした話を書いたことはあったが、まさか自分が同じような葛藤をする羽目になるとは思わなかった。
I've never written anything about a teacher and a student, and I'm sure I never expected to find myself in such a situation. But I feel
いいん
disgusted.
だ。一回り年が離れているし、血がつながっていると分かってからは、
I'm much
言
older
うべ
than
きじゃな
you.
いと思って
Since we're
た。
related, I shouldn't be saying
私が
this.
君の立場だったら困惑するからね。
If it were me, I'd be confused too. I'm
So-
not?
こん
You're not confused? Wait, what? I'm not confused. I'm actually happy. That's why I wanted him to treat me like I was special. But ever since I found out that we're siblings, I'd given up on that
上田
wish.
さん、 今
Please
君はい
have
つ
a
ものよう
DNA
に冷
test.
静な判断ができる状態じゃない。回復するまでゆっくり休んだ方がいい。
This is like this real we will have a forbidden love line. You're not thinking clearly or calmly right now. You should rest until you feel better. I'm completely calm, getting calmer by the minute, in
いや、
fact.
冴えてない。普通困るだろ。
No, you're not. Anyone else would be taken aback by this. Maybe so, if they didn't feel the same. Oh. I held my hand over my mouth. I couldn't take it back. I practically said I liked him. Maybe he didn't hear me. I looked at Professor Asagi and prepared for the awkwardness. Oh no, there's no way he didn't hear me. I was briefly impulsive, acting in the moment, and I revealed how I felt about him. I want to run away, but it's the truth. I couldn't pretend I didn't say it. It would end things right here and now. As Professor Asagi taught me, I shouldn't hide my feelings. I should be open and honest. I like you, so it doesn't disgust me. Granted, since we're related, nothing can come of it, but even if my brain knows that, it's not this simple. I think maybe I just
君
need
は
time.
すごいな。
You're amazing.
ああ、私はこの気持ちを伝えるべきではないと思っていたし、自分の気持ちから目を背けようとしていた。
I thought I shouldn't tell you how I felt and tried my best to
君
ignore
は
it.
ちゃんと自分の気持ちに向き合っている。これじゃ、どちらが大人かわからないな。
Here you are openly expressing your feelings. I can't tell who's being more of an adult right now. I'm just doing what you taught me. I didn't know who looked up first, but our eyes met and we laughed. I knew it. I like him. Even when we aren't doing anything, just being with him made me happy. But I also worried for the future. What's gonna
家族と
happen?
しての手続きを取るか取らないかは君に任せるけれど、
I'll let you decide if you want to file the paperwork for us to become
どち
family.
らに
Are
して
you?
もせめて金銭面の援助をしておきたい。
Either way, I want to help you financially. I see. Nothing made me happier than knowing Professor Sagi felt the same way, but because we were related by blood, it could never turn romantic. My brother. I tried repeating it in my mind, but it still felt
前にも
off.
言ったけれど、私は君を妹としては見れない。
I told you this already, but I will not think of you as my sister. Right. I thought he was just pushing me away the other day, and that hurt, but
それで
now,
悩ましい
oops,
ところではあ
I
るが、
knew that he felt about
母の
me.
ことで
I was pleased despite how inappropriate it was. One thing still worries me, my mother.
隠しておいて、予想していないタイミングで知られてしまうのは危険なので、私の口から話そうと思っている。
I just want like the mom to be the key that like proves he's not related to her. Because that's terrible. This is so bad. All right, I kept all this from her and I don't think she could handle the surprise. I'll find a way to break it to her easy.
伝え方には細心の注意を払うけれどね。
I need to be careful how I word
そう。
things.
母に話す前に DNA 鑑定をしておこうと思う。
I think we should do a DNA
証
test
拠がない
first.
と信じない可能性もある。
She may not believe me
鑑
without
定
proof.
結果が出たら、ま
Once
ず
we get the
私が
results, I'll tell her. I
一旦
understand.
この話はやめよう。今はともかく休んで。
Anyways, we
Yo,
can talk about this
私が付き添う。
later. You should rest for now. I'll stay with you for today. Stay with
さ
me.
すがに一人にはできないだろ。大丈夫。弱っている子を襲ったりはしないから。
You think she's your sister? Is this taboo? Oh my god. You can't take care of yourself alone. Don't worry. I won't jump a girl when she's not feeling well. Jump?
あ、冗談のつもりだったのだけど、
I meant that as a
仕事
joke.
道具も持ってきたんだ。悪いけど食べ終わったら、そのテーブルを使わせてもらえるかな。
Anyways, I brought my work. Once you're finished, do you mind if I use this table? Sure. Just a little while ago, I wouldn't have thought that we'd be spending time together under the same roof. I'm still feeling dizzy, although it's for an entirely different reason now. Dear gracious. Once I finished eating, I took a bath and changed into clean pajamas. All that was left is go to bed, but
ああ、明るいと寝れないか。私は端の方に移動するから。
I guess you can't sleep with the light on like this. I'll go to the other side. It's okay. I climbed into bed and secretly peeked at Professor Asagi. It's not a dream, he's really here. It was difficult to describe how I felt: touched, happy, overjoyed. It's so strange to see Professor Asagi in my apartment, and we feel the same way about each other. He's still my professor, but once I graduate and he takes me in as a family, should I call him something different? We went to the bar that night. He made me use his name. Just that made my heart skip, but what if I felt now was more than that? Brother, Mr. Eiichirou. Eiichirou. Eiichirou sounds more right than brother. As I continued to think, I closed my eyes. The sound of his typing echoed in my tiny apartment. The tapping slowly lulled me to sleep. I do like a clicky keyboard. Every time! Anyways, I hit the wrong button that time. That's not fair. But I heard Uda's voice and stopped working. She was sleeping comfortably, her arms hanging out of the
仕
blanket.
方のない子だ。
What am I gonna do with you? I got up and walked to her bed, reaching out to pull the blanket over her. Eiichirou. I heard my name and
Ueda-san.
froze. Uda? I thought she was awake, but I was
やれやれ。
mistaken. Jeez. I tucked her into the blanket, careful not to wake her, and she smiled.
人の気も知らないで、一体どんな夢を見ているのやら。
You have no idea how I feel. I wonder what you're dreaming about. Inappropriate. I made a video accidentally. It doesn't even look like the same person. I kissed her cheek. No
起きていたら
response.
襲ったりしないって言ったじゃないですかって怒られてるかな。
If she were awake, she would have went on about how I said I wouldn't jump her and gotten really mad. I knew I shouldn't have done that, but I hope that she and whatever deity might be watching would forgive me. You probably have no idea just how much I love you. This is why I can be vulnerable with you. Every time you talk to me, I try to deny it, but you trust me so
普通の
earnestly.
恋人としての幸せをあげられないならせめて家族としての親愛を君に捧げるべきなのかもしれ
If I
ない。
can't make you happy as a lover, I can at least give you the affection as a member of your
残酷だ
family.
けれど、それが俺にできる唯一の愛し方だ。
Maybe cruel, but it's the only way I can love you. What do you think? I think this is inappropriate. Is this really going to be the end? Because it's wild if it is. Maybe because Professor Asagi stayed with me, or because I was so relieved our feelings were mutual, I felt better in no time. Even if he was my brother, my respect and love for him wouldn't change. He cared so much for me too that the awkwardness between us gradually dissipated.
上田さん、急にすまない。その DNA 鑑定の結果が出たんだ。
I'm sorry to be. This is so sudden, but the DNA results are back. Oh, so you're gonna talk to your mother now
それが
about that? What's the matter? Did something
届いた
happen?
書類にはね、兄弟の可能性はないと書かれていて。
According to the results, we're not related at all. Jesus. But I thought we shared the same father.
私も正直混乱していて、母が父の遺髪を持っていたはずなんだ。それでもう一度鑑定してもらうしかない。
Could this be the plot twist of the century? Could that be her father, but not his father? Wild. I'm just as confused. My mother kept a lock of my father's hair as a keepsake. I'll have to borrow it and do the test again. But if you do that, won't she ask you why?
母にとって大切なものだし、ちゃんと事情を話そうと思う。
It's one of her most cherished treasures, so I'll have to
それに
explain.
うすうす母は君がカナさんの娘だと気づいている気がするんだ。
Besides, I think she's starting to suspect that you're Kana's daughter. Then I'll go with
気持ち
you.
はありがたいが、真実を知って母が君に何を言うかわからない。
I appreciate the gesture. I don't know how my mom will react, so you should. Last time was just so sudden I wasn't prepared. But I want to formally introduce myself, so please let me come with
傷
you.
つくかもしれないよ。
If she gets too upset, she might say some hurtful things. Well, I am a little afraid to be honest, but if I don't do this, I don't think I'll ever find any closure. I want to know the truth, no matter how much it hurts.
一緒に母のところへ行こ
Let's go together then. Bum. When we were ready, Professor Asagi called and said we'd meet at his mother's apartment. Once I got there, I sat down with him and his mom.
あら、あなた、前にもうちに来てくれていたお嬢さんね。
You're the young lady from the other day. Yes, I am the Uda.
上田。そう。
Uda, I see.
誰かに似てると思ったら、かなさんに似てるんだわ。
I knew you looked familiar. You resemble Kana so
母さん
much.
彼女は俺の教え子なんだ。
She's my student.
ほら、熱心に俺の講義を聞いてくれてる子がいるって何回か話したことがあっただろ。
I've told you about her a few times. She's the one who listens so intently to my lectures.
覚えているわ。
What a strange twist of fate.
栄一郎がかなさんの子供と出会うなんて。
Who would have thought that you would meet Kana's child? She was smiling, but a tear suddenly dripped down her
母
cheek.
さん、
いい
Mom?
の。こういう形でなくとも。いず
All right. I knew I'd have to talk about this
栄
eventually.
一郎ももう大人だもの。知りたいのはお父さんのことでしょ。
You're all grown up now, Ichiro. I'm sure you want to talk about your father.
俺は彼女から話を聞いて、父さんが彼女の父親で俺とも血がつながっていると思ったんだ。
After Misuda told me about her mother, I thought that dad was also her father. That we were
で
related.
も違っていた。母さんは何か知っているのかい？
I was wrong. Do you know
ちょっと
something
待
about
っていて
this?
ちょうだい。
Give me just a minute. I wasn't ready for this today. Ooh, she opened a drawer and pulled something out of it.
これは誠司さんの書斎の引き出しの鍵よ。
This key opens the drawer to Seiji's study. The one that's always locked. Do you remember?
ああ、あの鍵、母さんが持っていたのか。
If you can take a lock off. I didn't know you had the key.
誠司さんが亡くなる間際に渡されたの。引き出しの中には彼の手記と手紙が入っていたわ。
Before Seiji passed away, he gave it to me. The drawer should contain a memoir and 2 letters.
一通は私宛て。もう一通は
One was for me and one's for Kana. To my mom. May I also see it?
かなさんの居場所がわからなくてずっとしまっていたの。
I kept it here because I had no idea where Kana
娘
was.
であるあなたには見る権利があるわ。
As her
誠司さんは
daughter, you have every right to see it.
それを望んでる。
I'm sure Seiji would have wanted that too.
会えてよかった。
I'm glad we got to meet. Professor Asagi's mom smiled at me and wiped her tears. Then she bowed and went back to her room. Professor Asagi took the key his mother had given him and went to his father's study. He returned with the memoir and the letters.
父さんがこんなものを残していたなんて。これを読めば、すべてが
I wouldn't say they're
明らかに
going
な
to
るはず
explain
だ。
everything. Right. Right, Ichiro. Give me the letter. We returned to Professor Asagi's room. The memoir and letter in hand.
心の準備はいいかい？
Are you ready? If you are. Though I was nervous, I nodded and Professor Asagi opened the memoir and read it out loud.
この手記を私の愛する者に捧ぐ。
This memoir is dedicated to my
私の
beloved.
命の灯火はあと少しで尽きようとしている。
The fire of my life shall soon be
栄一郎
extinguished.
が20歳になるのを見届けたかったが、それももはや叶わない。
I wanted to see Ichido grow into an adult, but it was not
あの
meant to
子には
be.
苦労をかけた。本来ならば、私の口から真実を語るべきなのだろうが、
I caused him so much suffering. I should be telling him this in person. But that's difficult to do in this situation.
どこまで書けるかわからないが、私の身の上に起こった出来事を文字にすることにした。
I don't know how much I should say, but I've decided to write down what
おそら
happened.
くこれが私、浅木誠二が父親としてできる最後の仕事になるだろう。
This will likely be the last thing I can do for Eiichirou as a father. Nice. First, I'll start with my best friend, Takuro Ohara. We met at literature club in high school. At the time, I was already working on becoming a screenwriter, and Ohara was trying to become a novelist. We would critique each other's work, which sometimes led to arguments, but it also helped us grow in our respective craft. Let's race to see who gets the job first. We enrolled in the same college, and that's where we met Saruri, your mother. Your mother loved to read, so the three of us hit it off. We would read the same books and have lively conversations together. Sayori was a delicate flower, and my feelings bloomed for her, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to mess up our trio. In our final year of college, Ohara won a prestigious award for his debut novel. I was overjoyed for him and celebrated as if it were my own accomplishment. Excited, Sayori jumped up and hugged him. That was when I realized Ohara and Sayori liked each other. If I'd been another man, I would have tried to date her anyways. I would have said something, but I trusted Ohara and I knew he would make her happy, so I withdrew. Fate came so fickle, though. I still vividly remember the day Sayori called to tell me Ohara had been in a traffic accident. He survived, but he had a severe head injury. The doctor said he had a high chance of developing vascular dementia. Just like they said, little by little, Ohara started to forget things. At the time, I was competing with Ohara, so I was entering a lot of competitions. Seeing my best friend so reduced made me lose all motivation. Once, when Sayori left the room and I was just the two of us, I told him about the script I was working on. I didn't expect a response, but his empty eyes suddenly revived and he said, "Are you feeling guilty because of me? Spare me. Didn't we swear when we started college that we'd compete to see who got a job first?" I was ashamed of myself. Yes, he was my best friend, but he was also my greatest rival. After Ohara scolded and encouraged me that day, I submitted my script to a competition. When I heard I'd won an award for it, I went straight to Ohara's house to tell him. I thought I'd finally caught up to him at the starting line. But the next year, Ohara's brain started hemorrhaging, and his condition worsened. He went into surgery, but he didn't survive. Sayori and I were both devastated. Sayori had a weak constitution to begin with and fell ill. Then I discovered she was pregnant with Ohara's child. I couldn't leave her like that. She was too shocked from her sudden loss. So I proposed to her and begged her to let me help raise Ohara's child. I'd hidden my feelings because of Ohara, yet even then I still loved Sayori. But she loved Ohara, so I couldn't bring myself to tell her how I felt. Looking back now, if I'd just told her, our futures together could have been different. Sayori gave birth to a boy and we named him Eiichirou. We married and we lived together like a normal, happy family. But as I got busier with work, Sayori smiled less and less. She started blaming herself, insisting that she was trying to forget Ohara and be happy. I tried to convince her that it was okay, but her mental state kept worsening. I think it was Ichiro's strong resemblance to Ohara. Day by day, Eiichirou looked more and more like his late father. My work often kept me from home, and one day, her mental illness pushed her over the edge. She wanted to separate. I said, "This isn't the life you wanted. I've been nothing but a burden. I want you to be free of this obligation," she said. It was then that I realized my grievous error. Sayori thought the whole time that I had proposed only out of obligation to Ohara and sympathy for her. That wasn't true. I loved her deeply, but when I finally told her, it was too late. Every time I was with her, she blamed herself more. I was reluctant and it was painful, but I agreed for the divorce in the end. Eiichirou was only 8, but he was smart. He was always worrying about both of us. He said, I'm worried about Mom, so I'll stay with her. Then I was separated from him too. All alone, I realized that they were the ones supporting me all the time. My heart broke. Things got worse until I hit rock bottom. My student studying under me, Kana Uda, was my savior. She always knew Sayori and Ichido. She also knew Sayori and Ichido, and she was aware of our situation. She said leaving me to my own devices would lead to a downfall, so she started supporting me. At the time, I regretted that I couldn't make anyone happy, but Kana was patient, and she encouraged me, saying, your work makes a lot of people happy. I'm one of them. After about a year, I was almost back to normal. I felt bad for troubling her for so long, and then I realized I was falling in love. I decided to tell her to express my feelings this time and hoped I could make her happy. However, the fear of rejection was strong and I hesitated. In the end, she told me how she felt, and I was finally able to tell her that I loved her. Ichido was still worried about me, and he had dropped by my work from time to time. One time he said, Mom said she loved you. My heart ached to hear it, but at least I'd finally found out what she truly thought. Both of us were terrible at communicating. We assumed how the other felt, and then we came to our own conclusions without facts. Ohara was so straightforward with his emotions, and Ichido had definitely inherited that from his dad. As time passed, Kana finally got a job as a main writer for a film. The director was Uzo Makino. He was younger than me and had very few titles to his name. However, I'd worked with him once and knew he was a talented director. Both me and Kana were now professional screenwriters. Although our relationship had been ambiguous up to this point, we started dating, no longer teacher and student. I'd finally broken free of my fetters and could file for marriage with Kana. But she suddenly told me she wanted to break up. She said my mom is ill and I have to go take care of her. I couldn't believe it. She was dissolved, and in one day she packed her things and left while I was away. Not long after, Ichido asked me to come back. There wasn't a day I didn't think about Sayori and Ichido, and never complained about anything, but this time he pleaded so sincerely that I had to consider it. I wasn't sure I could even do anything, but thought we weren't related by blood. Though we weren't related by blood, Ichido was still my son. No parent doesn't love their child, and I wanted to be a father to Ichido. I talked things over with Sayori, and we started living together again. As the years passed, I did my best to be a good father, albeit a clumsy one. Ichido hadn't told me directly, but it seemed he had been writing novels. When I found out the days I'd spent laughing with Ohara rushed back with vivid splendor. I pray my son will be happy, and I'm sure Ohara will want the same. Seems strange, but Alright. After Professor Asagi finished reading the memoir, he sat there speechless for some time. Everything Seiji Asagi had felt, his eternal struggle was all written here. Seiji Asagi Part 2, the protagonist's father. Although she never got a chance to meet him, he passed away without even knowing that the protagonist existed. He was known for his loving personality, and he raised Ichido as his own despite not being related by blood. Is Professor Asagi alright? The person he thought was his father wasn't blood related, and now he's found out about his biological father. Our circumstances were different, but this couldn't be easy for him. Professor Asagi?
そんな心配そうな顔をしなくても大丈夫だよ、上田さん。
You don't have to look so worried, I'm alright.
血がつながっていなくても、父は俺を愛してくれていた。
Even if you weren't related, my father
俺の
loved
父
me.
が浅木誠二なのは、この先、一生変わらない。
My father is Seiji Asagi, and that will never change. Seiji Asagi was a wonderful father.
俺は父を尊敬していた。偉大な越えるべき壁だと思っていた。
He left me with some big shoes to
そ
fill.
の通りの素晴らしい父親だったのが改めて分かったよ。
This memoir reminds me of what a great man he actually was.
しかし、この手記には君のことが書かれていなかった。
But it doesn't mention anything about you. It
も
doesn't.
しかしたら
Could it be? I think so. Seiji Asagi, he didn't know about me. You mentioned that you talked to my mother back then, right?
彼女は君のお母さんはきっと
I think your mother already, I think she was pregnant with me then. My mother didn't leave just because of you and your mom, though. I think that if Seiji found out about me, he would have been in even more pain. I wasn't abandoned. Inside the memoir was a letter made out to Kana Ude. There was also an open letter addressed to Sayori Asagi. Professor Asagi picked up the one intended for my mother and held it out to
私
me.
は母宛ての手紙に目を通してみる
I'll read the one from
だ
my
から君
mother.
は
Here's yours. Okay. Honestly, I was a little afraid, but my curiosity won out. I want to know how my mother's true love ended. I opened the letter and took a deep breath to prepare myself. You may never see this letter, but there are things I need to say, so I've written them down. Even after you said goodbye and vanished, I always worried about you. Even if we're separated, it doesn't change the fact that you saved me. I love you. Please don't ever forget that. I'm here today because my mother truly loved him. Not everything will go your way, and you can't say if one love is better than another. And sometimes love even pushes you to withdraw.
上田さん
Masuda. When I heard Professor Asagi's voice, I couldn't take it anymore, and I threw myself into his arms. Damn, I was never sure if I was loved. My mother said she was happy, but she passed away when I was in grade school. I always worried that she spent her entire life suffering. If it weren't for me, maybe she could have continued being a screenwriter. I always wondered if my life had
あるよ
meaning.
この式冒頭に私の愛する者に捧ぐとあるだろう
It's vague. This memoir says it's dedicated to his
父は
beloved.
君のことを知らないままこの世を去ったが君も間違いなく父に愛されていた一人だ
Your father passed away without knowing you, but you are without a doubt among those he loved. Thank
俺
you.
たちは普通の家庭とは違っていたかもしれないだ
We
けど
may not be a regular
愛情
family,
の形なんて
but love
人
comes
そ
in
れ
different
ぞれ違う
forms.
不器用だけれど確かな愛があったからこそ
It may
俺
have
た
been
ちはこ
awkward
う
at
して出会え
times,
たんだ
but we were able to meet because of love. I cried in Professor Asagi's arms for a while until I eventually calmed down. I haven't cried this much since I was a
君は
child.
無意識に我慢するところがあるけれど泣きたい時には今みた
Yuji
い
seemed to
に泣いた
bottle
方
things
がいい
up, but when you feel like crying, you should. Yeah. Professor Asagi, how was the letter to your
こっ
mom?
ちには父の母に対する思いが綴られていたよ
It was about how my father felt about her, his emotions, his
最
thoughts.
後まで父は母のことを心配していたあと
My father worried about her to the end, and he wanted me to take care of her. I see.
君はこれからどうしたい
What do you want to do now? What do you mean?
その父たちの間にこういうことがあったことを知らないまま私は君を好きになった
I fell in love with you without knowing what happened between our fathers.
ちょっと気まずいということなら
If you still feels awkward, we can. Please don't say you want to leave me. If you do, I'll cry.
それは困る
I can't have that. Then please stay right there.
なんだか脅
Is that
迫
an
され
order? Yes, I've decided to stop being so obedient. Oh, he suddenly went quiet. I tried to be a little more frank for once, but it seems I've messed it up. I'm sorry. I just got carried away, because you're not my sibling and all. Huh? I was confused as to why he
やっ
was
ぱり君
laughing.
は根っからのいい子なんだよ
This is
悪
so
巧みをす
funny.
るなら
Oh
最後ま
boy.
でやり遂げないと
I know you're a good person deep down, so if you want to start something, you need to finish it. That's a bit difficult
そ
for
れなら
me.
私が手本を見せようか
So I set the example. Really? I want to know how you do it. Please teach me.
じゃあ 目を閉じて。まずはイメージしてみよ
First, close your eyes and try to imagine it. Oh dear. It's sort of like imagine training. Is this how you come up with the ideas for your screenplays? Oh, I felt something touch my lips and my eyes flew open. What did you
う。君
just
の
do?
想像通りのことかな。
Dang, exactly what you think. You just told me to try and imagine it. You didn't say anything about
い
kissing.
や、疑いもせずに目を閉じてくれたのが可愛くて。
Oh man. I couldn't help it. You closed your eyes without any hesitation. You were adorable. You couldn't help it. That reminds me, the memoir says that Ohara was very open with his emotions, and that's you take after
さす
him.
が父さんだ。息子のことをよくわかっている。
It is true. Consent is very important. This is actually the second time he's done something without consent. My father was very observant. He knew his son well. Professor Asagi smiled mischievously. I thought you were a
君
gentleman.
に手を出したのは、実は今ので2度目なのだけどね。
He admits it. This isn't the first time I did something. It's the second. What? I couldn't just ignore that. What do you mean the second time? What did you do the
眠っている
first
君
time?
の頬にキスした。
When you were sleeping, I kissed your cheek. I was asleep when? The night you came over when I was feeling
君が
sick?
寝言で私の名前を呼んだり、無防備な姿を見せるから。
You called my name in your sleep. You look so defenseless. I talked in my sleep, but
嫌い
still.
になったかい？
Do you hate me now? He stared at me as if he couldn't talk. If you've watched any of this story before, she's been trying to find her dad this whole time. So he also thought he was related to her and was still having crushes with each other. So that was also funny. When you put it that way, I want to give him the response he wants. Ooh, that's not fair. I still love you. I realized then that love was all a game of cat and mouse. I don't think that's accurate. Let's see, does this have an after story? Has an after story. Seasons changed. Before I knew it, a year had passed. Director Makino's movie was released in October to high praise. The cast was announced last November, and then the script was completed. Nishijima and Sina was cast as the leads, and when filming started, we got to see each other again for the first time in a while. After that, we were all really busy. As the assistant, I helped proofread the script, and I was even asked to help polish it. Makino continued to help on set, and Kazuma was working hard with Kayama. He said the best part was the filming. I also watched them film a few scenes. Just from that, I could tell Nishijima and Sina had a lot of chemistry. Director Makino was strict yet kind, and there was a lot to learn. The movie garnered a lot of attention even after it released, and it was acclaimed by critics and moviegoers alike. Whenever I heard someone praise the story, I felt as happy as if it were my own work. As well as for us, ooh. It's like drum roll. Professor Asagi, how was my
そうだ
script?
ね。1年生の頃から見てきたけれど、君の上達ぶりには目を見張るものがある。
I've watched you since your first year, but you've markedly improved as of late.
赤チェック
Then
入れておいたから目を通してみて。
I noticed my corrections in red, so have a look. Right. I thought he'd praise me this time, but he was still as strict as ever. He would point out the flaws, but never really offer a solution. Instead, he urged me to find the best way to express it on my own. Because of that, I'd rack my brain to find new ways to write from various viewpoints, but I've been getting less criticism lately. Since I was still a student, we'd been keeping our relationship a secret for now. Thankfully, he didn't take it easy on me even though we were dating. It was autumn now, and I was in my 4th year. I didn't plan on getting a regular job. Instead, I wanted to continue writing. When my work with the movie died down, I resumed one of my part-time jobs. Once I graduated, I'd keep working that job and use the rest of my time to write and enter contests. By the way, I resumed only one of my part-time jobs because I found another work to do instead. Yes, yeah. That's pretty much been the vibe the whole time with this one. Not a lot of the stories weren't very great in terms of consent stuff too, so it's interesting. I said I wouldn't get a regular job, but this kinda was one in a way. Yep, I kept my job as Ichiro's assistant. I couldn't support him as a lover, but I could still help him with his work. I would do that while I continued my studies. I planned to submit scripts I was writing now to a contest, even though I was still in college. If I won, things could change. I knew I shouldn't be too optimistic, though. I need to focus on making a living while remaining flexible. I glanced at Ichiro. He was eating a piece of coffee candy. He didn't even glance over, totally focused on his own thing. After we read his father's memoir, I formally introduced myself to his mother, and we told her about our relationship. She smiled at Ichiro and said that his happiness was hers as well. She gave us her blessing. Will I eventually change my last name? Please don't. No, it sounds strange. Yeah, don't do that.
集中できてないな。
Are you having trouble concentrating? Huh? He said it so sunny that I
何を
jumped.
考えていたんだい？
What were you thinking about? About tonight's
目が
dinner.
泳いでいる。君は相変わらず嘘が下手だな。
Look me in the eye when you say that. You're a bad liar, like always. Ichiro was so mature. Ever since we started dating, he often teased me. I'd like to turn the table on him at least sometimes, but he's probably noticed. I couldn't do anything too complicated. He was always a step ahead of me. Ichiro kept on working. He had no idea I was fretting about how to surprise him. Maybe I can do something while he's distracted with work. I decided to go and sneak up behind him. I could shout, "Boo!" behind him, then that may be a little too childish. What in the world would surprise him? I crept closer, silent as a mouse, and then hugged him. Is that a surprise? Oh, that's cute. Ah, did I surprise you?
君はたまに子供っぽいことをするようになったね。
Aw, you're starting to do some childish things lately. I am a child compared to you. I just want to surprise you for
かばっ
once.
てほしいのかい？
Oh my god. Did you just want attention? It's not that. I just wanted to dote on you for a change. I wanted to give you something very special.
え？
Their age
Nanda.
gap is like 10 years, which is a lot, but like they act like he's the oldest person in the world too sometimes, so it's over exaggerated at the same time. What's that? Close your eyes and count to 3.
いいよ。
Okay,
Ichi.
1. Once Ichiro's eyes were closed, I reached out and removed his glasses. 2. I leaned in closer to his
Stop.
face. So we're gonna. Oh. Before he could finish counting, I kissed him. She's 20 or 21, so she's between those two ages. I can't remember exactly, but she's a senior in college in the story. So, not 18, which could be a lot worse. Before he could finish counting, I kissed him. Yeah, I did it. I felt so accomplished that he hadn't seen it coming, but when I looked at his face, he was smiling, and I hadn't expected. You didn't expect your boyfriend to smile, huh? But his smile was a bit different from
なるほど。
usual.
確かにいいものだ。
I see. This is special. Yeah, you see? I didn't lie to
だけ
you.
ど、足りないな。
But it's not enough. Not
君は
enough.
とってもいいものと言った。
Ah,
で
man.
も今のじゃ、とってもとは言い難い。
You said you wanted to give me something very special. It's not quite very yet, but that's just a figure
文
of
章に
speech.
携わる仕事に就こうとするからには、正確な表現は必須だ。
Got her. Then, as a writer, you need to be a little more detailed than that. There's been a lot of them. If you've seen this game, there's a total of 4 guys on the cover, and a bunch of them were weird. They were just weird. Her best friend had a crush on her forever, and that was his whole storyline, was like having a crush on her forever and being really weird about it. I'm correct, aren't I? So, you need to do it again, right? How is he always one step ahead of me? I'm a bit mortified. I leaned in and tried to make it very special. Is this the same shot? His lips tasted like sweet coffee. From now on, I was going to live life being open and honest about my feelings together with Eiichirou. This happy end? Did it. Nice.
Lover pretend.
Yeah. So they have some really bad advice in this game as well. They had a, let me show you the characters really fast, just so I can remember. So he's the best friend. So he's 20. So he's the best friend who had a crush on her forever and then like lost his mind when she became more successful than him because he apparently was in a competition with her and didn't want her to succeed. He's the only one I actually liked story-wise because he like genuinely liked her in the story. But he's a very like popular model and so he's very sexy, so she had an issue with that. He's in the story, it's all about making a movie. So he's the director's son and he was sent to another country for like multiple years. So he has a really strained relationship with his father and he loves anime, but he doesn't want to admit that he loves anime. So he always says it's her that likes anime and he's just with her for that reason. And like literally to the point that he's being mean about it. So his wasn't too bad, honestly, in comparison, but like his was random. And then he is an actor who doesn't want to be an actor. So he blackmails her to pretend to be his fiance so he can try to convince his father that he wants to quit. It gets real interesting. So that's all the fun different stories in these ones. So I've only played it to get the good endings so far, so there's still the bad endings and there's going to be like the mediocre endings as well. So I'm gonna do a playthrough with all of those next, but they do this quite often in these games. It's kind of crazy how many. I was actually very pleased with this one because I played other ones where like your character will be killed by their love interest. And I was like, oh, maybe no one will die because this one doesn't seem that intense. So no one died this time, but I haven't done the bad endings yet. So we'll see what happens next. But I was going to call it here since I finished the story. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope if you decide to try it, you enjoy it. You get to unlock photos when you're playing, so that's kind of the fun thing is getting all the different pictures. I hope you try it out if you thought it was fun. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll be probably streaming the next bit on Wednesday. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's morning. It's actually almost 10 a.m. I thought I'd play before work since I was going to be working late tonight. All right, and I upload all my streams to YouTube, so you can see the older videos on there if you'd like to see some of the older things and the other lovely storylines I just described. All right, bye. Have a great day. Thank you.